Close your eyes and imagine this. You're standing at the mouth of a limestone cave, somewhere in what we now call France, 30,000 years ago. The wind outside howls like a living thing, angry and relentless, carrying snow that cuts through the air like broken glass. The temperature has dropped to 20 degrees below zero. In this frozen wasteland, every breath you take could be your last. Every decision matters. And yet, deep inside this cave, wrapped in furs and huddled around a carefully tended fire, a group of humans sleeps more peacefully than most of us do in our climate-controlled bedrooms with our memory foam mattresses and white noise machines. How is that even possible? What did they know that we've forgotten? Stay with me, because what you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about sleep, survival, and what it really means to rest. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey through time, I want you to do something for me. If you're fascinated by the mysteries of history, by the untold stories of how our ancestors survived impossible odds, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel, Dreamless Timelines, is dedicated to bringing you the most relaxing, mind-blowing historical narratives that help you drift into the deepest sleep while expanding your mind. And if you're already feeling that curiosity pulling you in, tap that like button. Your support helps us create more of these immersive journeys into the past. Now let's step back into that cave. The year is 28,000 BCE, give or take a few centuries. We're in the middle of what scientists call the last glacial maximum, the absolute peak of the Ice Age. Glaciers the size of entire countries covered most of Europe and North America. Woolly mammoths trudged through endless snowfields. Saber-toothed cats prowled the frozen forests. And humans, our direct ancestors, Homo sapiens, somehow not only survived but thrived in conditions that would kill most modern people within hours. The cave we're entering tonight isn't just any cave. It's been home to the same extended family group for 3 generations now. The eldest among them, a woman the others call something that translates roughly to firekeeper, is 62 years old, which in this era makes her practically ancient, a living library of knowledge and wisdom. She's seen more winters than anyone else alive in this region, and she knows secrets that mean the difference between waking up at dawn and never waking up at all. As darkness falls and the temperature outside plummets even further, the family group begins their evening ritual. This isn't just about lying down and closing your eyes. No, this is a precise, almost ceremonial process that's been refined over thousands of years, passed down through countless generations, each one adding their own insights, their own discoveries about what works and what doesn't when you're trying to survive the night in a world that wants you dead. The first thing they do, and this is crucial, is tend to the fire. Not just any fire, mind you. The firekeeper has taught the younger members of the group exactly which woods to use, which combinations create the longest-lasting coals, which ones produce the most heat with the least smoke. They've learned through bitter experience that some woods, when burned in an enclosed space, can fill the cave with toxic fumes that'll put you to sleep permanently. So they use primarily oak and beech, dense hardwoods that burn slow and steady, producing those beautiful red coals that'll radiate warmth for 6, 7, sometimes 8 hours straight. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is something that blew my mind when I first learned about it. These people weren't just randomly keeping a fire going. They understood, through pure observation and experimentation, something about thermodynamics that we wouldn't formally discover until thousands of years later. They knew that hot air rises, cold air sinks, and they used this knowledge to create what we'd now call a convection current inside the cave. The cave they've chosen, and this isn't by accident, has a specific structure. The entrance is relatively low, maybe 5 feet high, which immediately creates a barrier against the worst of the wind. But about 20 feet in, the cave opens up into a larger chamber, maybe 15 feet wide and 12 feet high. This is where they sleep. And at the very back of this chamber, there's a natural chimney, a narrow vertical shaft that goes up maybe 30 feet before opening to the outside world. Here's how they use this setup. The fire is positioned not at the back of the sleeping chamber, but slightly forward, maybe 10 feet from where they actually lay down. The heat from the fire rises, warming the air in the upper part of the chamber. The warmer air then circulates through the space, and as it gradually cools, it sinks back down. Meanwhile, the smoke, instead of filling their sleeping area, is drawn naturally toward the chimney shaft at the back, pulled upward by the draft. It's a naturally ventilated heating system that would make modern engineers weep with envy. But the fire is just the beginning. Let's talk about what they're sleeping on, because this is where things get really sophisticated. You might think they just found a relatively flat spot and laid down on the stone, maybe threw some leaves or grass down for padding. And sure, in summer or in milder climates that might work, but during these brutal winters, that would be suicide. Stone is an excellent conductor of heat, which means it would literally suck the warmth right out of your body. You'd be hypothermic within an hour. So instead, and this shows just how clever these people were, they've created what's essentially a raised platform. First, they laid down a thick layer of branches, mostly pine and fir, creating a lattice that lifts their sleeping surface about 6 inches off the cave floor. This creates an insulating air gap, breaking the thermal connection with the frozen stone beneath. On top of this lattice, they've piled dried grasses and sedges, which they collected during the summer months and stored in the driest part of the cave. This grass layer is at least a foot thick, compressed down over time, but still providing significant insulation. And then come the furs. Oh, the furs. This is where we need to talk about something that modern people often misunderstand about our ancestors. When we think of cavemen, we tend to picture these brutish, unsophisticated people wearing raggedy animal skins, barely surviving. But the reality is so much more complex and impressive. The furs these people sleep under and on top of are masterworks of technology. Each one represents hours, sometimes days of skilled labor. The hides have been carefully cleaned, scraped of all fat and tissue, then treated through a process that we now call tanning. They've discovered that rubbing the hides with a mixture of animal brains, liver, and fat, then working them for hours until they're soft and supple, creates a material that's both warm and flexible, that breathes but still insulates. Different furs serve different purposes. The bottom layer, the one they lie on, is typically made from deer or elk hides, which are tough and durable. Then they wrap themselves in lighter, warmer furs for covering. Rabbit furs, sewn together into large blankets, are incredibly warm for their weight. Fox and wolf furs are prized for their combination of warmth and softness. And for the coldest nights, the nights when the wind sounds like it's trying to tear the mountain apart, they bring out the bear furs, massive hides that can cover 3 or 4 people, so thick and insulating that you can barely feel the cold once you're underneath. But here's something that'll blow your mind. They don't just use the furs as blankets. They've figured out something that we've basically forgotten in our modern age of central heating. They've learned that the key to staying warm isn't just about piling on more insulation. It's about managing moisture. When you sleep, your body produces moisture through breathing and subtle sweating, even in cold weather. If this moisture gets trapped against your skin or soaks into your bedding, it'll make you colder, not warmer. Water is an excellent conductor of heat, remember. So what these people have figured out is a layering system that allows moisture to escape while still maintaining insulation. They sleep wearing loose-fitting garments made from the softest, most flexible furs, usually rabbit or young deer. These are worn with the fur side against the skin, which creates tiny air pockets that insulate while allowing moisture to wick outward. Over this, they might wear a second layer, fur side out this time, which provides additional insulation. And then they cover themselves with the large blanket furs, and this is key. They don't wrap themselves up tight like a burrito. They leave small openings, allowing air circulation that lets moisture escape while still maintaining warmth. The firekeeper, settling into her sleeping spot this particular evening, makes her final rounds. She checks on each member of the family group, making sure the children are properly covered, that the adolescents haven't kicked off their furs in their sleep, that the nursing mother and her infant are positioned close enough to the fire to stay warm, but not so close that they're in danger from sparks. There are 17 people in this cave tonight, 3 generations living together, supporting each other. The firekeeper and her mate, a man nearly as old as she is, his face weathered by decades of sun and wind and cold. Their 3 adult children and their mates, 8 grandchildren ranging from infants to teenagers, and 2 orphans, children of the firekeeper's sister, who died 2 winters ago during a particularly harsh storm. This multi-generational living arrangement isn't just about having company or sharing resources, though those things matter. It's about something deeper, something we're only now beginning to understand again in our modern world, the importance of social connection for survival and well-being, especially during times of stress and danger. You know what's wild? Scientists have done studies on this, and they've found that people who feel socially connected, who sleep near others they trust, actually sleep better. Their cortisol levels are lower, their heart rate variability is better, they spend more time in deep restorative sleep stages. And for these Ice Age people, that's not just a nice bonus, it's literally the difference between life and death. Because here's the thing about winter survival in the Ice Age that most people don't realize. The cold isn't actually the primary danger. I mean, yeah, it's dangerous, don't get me wrong, but the real killer is stress. The constant, unrelenting stress of knowing that every day might be your last, that food is scarce, that danger lurks everywhere, that one wrong decision could doom your entire family. That kind of chronic stress floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline. It messes with your immune system. It disrupts your sleep patterns. It makes you irritable and anxious and prone to making mistakes. And in this environment, a single mistake can be fatal. So the fact that these people can sleep peacefully, deeply, restoratively night after night isn't just about their clever heating system or their sophisticated bedding. It's about the fact that they feel safe. They're surrounded by family. They trust the firekeeper to maintain the flames through the night. They trust the young men who take turns watching the cave entrance, making sure no predators try to move in. They trust the system that their ancestors developed over countless generations. And speaking of the watch, let's talk about that for a minute, because this is another fascinating aspect of how these people managed to sleep so well despite living in such a dangerous world. Modern people, when we think about safety, we think about locks and alarms and security systems. We want technology to protect us while we sleep. But these Ice Age people developed something arguably more effective, a social sleep system where the group's safety was maintained through coordinated rest periods. The watch duty rotates through the adolescent males and the younger adult males, usually in 2-hour shifts throughout the night. But the person on watch isn't standing guard in the military sense. They're not at high alert, weapon in hand, scanning for threats. That would be exhausting and unsustainable. Instead, the person on watch is essentially maintaining a state of light, flexible awareness. They're sitting near the cave entrance, occasionally stepping outside to scan the surroundings, mostly just listening. Listening to the wind, listening to the sounds of the night, listening for anything that sounds wrong or different or potentially dangerous. And here's the beautiful part. Because they're so attuned to their environment, because they've spent their entire lives learning the sounds and rhythms of the natural world, they can actually rest while on watch. They enter a state that's somewhere between waking and sleeping, where they're still monitoring their surroundings, but their body is getting significant rest. Scientists have found similar patterns in modern hunter-gatherer groups that still exist today. They call it sentinel sleep or vigilant rest, and it seems to be a natural human capacity that we've mostly lost in our modern, presumably safer world. The person on watch can rest and recover, getting maybe 60 to 70% of the restorative benefits of full sleep, while still maintaining enough awareness to respond to genuine threats. And because the duty rotates every 2 hours, no single person is overly burdened. You do your watch, then you go back to your sleeping spot and drop into deep, restful sleep, knowing that someone else has taken over the responsibility. This system does something profound for the group's sleep quality. It means that when you lay down to sleep, you can actually let go. You don't have to maintain that edge of vigilance. You don't have to sleep with one ear open, as we say. You can surrender completely to sleep because you know at a deep primal level that someone else is handling security. Try this experiment sometime. If you live with people you trust, take turns being the one who keeps watch at night. You don't have to actually stay up or do anything. Just designate one person as the one who will respond if something goes wrong. You'll be amazed at how much more deeply everyone else sleeps. That sense of distributed responsibility is powerful. Now, as the night deepens and the wind outside reaches a crescendo, howling through the rocks and trees like some ancient beast, let's talk about what's actually happening inside the bodies of these sleeping people. Because the story of how they sleep so well isn't just about their external environment. It's about how their bodies and brains have adapted to their harsh reality. These people's circadian rhythms, their internal body clocks, are radically different from ours. In our modern world, we're exposed to artificial light at all hours. We eat at irregular times, we work night shifts, we stare at screens that blast blue light into our retinas right up until the moment we try to sleep. Our circadian rhythms are, to put it bluntly, completely messed up. But these Ice Age people, their circadian rhythms are synchronized perfectly with the natural cycle of day and night. When the sun goes down, their bodies begin producing melatonin, the hormone that makes you sleepy. As darkness deepens and the temperature drops, their core body temperature begins to lower, which is a crucial signal for deep sleep. Their cortisol levels, which should be high during the day to keep you alert and energized, drop to their lowest point in the middle of the night. Everything is working as it should. Their bodies are aligned with the natural world in a way that ours simply aren't anymore. But it goes even deeper than that. These people's sleep architecture, the structure and pattern of their sleep stages throughout the night, is different from ours. When modern people sleep, we typically go through 4 to 6 complete sleep cycles in a night, each cycle lasting about 90 minutes. We move through light sleep, into deeper sleep, into REM sleep where we dream, then back up to light sleep before starting another cycle. But research on modern hunter-gatherer groups, combined with what we know about natural human sleep patterns before the invention of artificial light, suggests that our Ice Age ancestors slept differently. Their sleep was more flexible, more responsive to their environment and needs. On these long winter nights, when darkness lasts for 14 or even 16 hours, they don't sleep straight through. Instead, they often fall into what we'd call a biphasic sleep pattern. They sleep for 4 or 5 hours, then wake naturally for an hour or two, then sleep again for another 3 or 4 hours. During that middle of the night waking period, they don't jump up and start being productive. They don't stress about being awake. They just lie there, warm and comfortable under their furs in a state of quiet restfulness. They might tend the fire, adding a piece of wood if needed. They might get up to relieve themselves at the designated spot near the cave entrance. They might lie there thinking or talking quietly with others who are also awake, or engaging in other quiet, intimate activities. And here's what's fascinating. This wasn't considered a sleep problem. This wasn't insomnia. this was just normal, natural sleep. In fact, historical records from medieval Europe, before artificial lighting became common, show that people regularly referred to first sleep and second sleep, with a period of wakefulness in between that they called the watch. Only in our modern era, with our obsession with 8 hours of continuous sleep, would we consider this pattern abnormal. But for these Ice Age people, this flexible approach to sleep is actually more restful, more restorative, and more practical than our modern sleep patterns. If you're enjoying this journey into the past, if you're learning things that surprise you and make you think differently about sleep and survival, and what humans are capable of, do me a favor and drop a comment below. Tell me what aspect of this story fascinates you most. Do you want to hear more about Ice Age survival strategies, about ancient sleep wisdom, about how our ancestors adapted to extreme environments? Your comments help me understand what you're most interested in, and they help other viewers find this content too. Now, let's talk about something that might seem trivial, but is actually crucial to understanding how these people slept so well: diet and its impact on sleep quality. In our modern world, many of us struggle with sleep because of what we eat, especially what we eat in the hours before bed. Late-night snacks, caffeine, sugar, processed foods, alcohol, all of these things disrupt sleep in various ways, messing with our blood sugar, our hormones, our digestive processes. But these Ice Age people, their diet, by necessity, supports excellent sleep. Let me paint you a picture of what they ate on this particular day, because it's going to surprise you. They woke before dawn, as they always do, because even in winter there's work to be done and daylight is precious. Breakfast was simple: leftovers from the previous night's meal, some dried berries and water from melted snow. The main components were the remnants of a rabbit stew, heavy with fat and protein, practically no carbohydrates. Mid-morning, a small group went out to check their snares and traps. Winter hunting is tough, no doubt about it. The big game, the mammoths and bison and giant elk, are scarce in this region during the deep winter. They've migrated to areas where grazing is still possible, but smaller animals, rabbits, hares, foxes, even wolves sometimes, can still be caught if you know what you're doing. Today they were lucky. 3 snares had rabbits and one of the deadfall traps had caught a fox. The fox fur will be prized, but the meat is what matters right now. Food, calories, sustenance. They also found something else, something that tells us a lot about how these people understood their environment. Near a grove of pine trees, protected from the worst of the wind, they found fungus growing on the bark. Not just any fungus, but a specific type that the firekeeper has taught them is valuable. We now know it as chaga, a medicinal mushroom that's packed with antioxidants and compounds that support immune function and reduce inflammation. They scrape off chunks of this fungus and bring it back to the cave, where it'll be added to hot water to create a tea of sorts. This isn't just superstition or random folk medicine. This is sophisticated pharmacological knowledge passed down through generations, knowledge that modern science is only now beginning to understand and validate. By mid-afternoon, as the sun starts its early descent toward the horizon, the family gathers for their main meal. This is when they eat the bulk of their daily calories, and it's a substantial meal. The rabbits and fox are roasted over the fire, the fat dripping and sizzling, the smell filling the cave and making everyone's mouth water. With the meat, they eat whatever plant foods they've managed to preserve from the previous growing season. On this particular day, that includes some dried rose hips, incredibly high in vitamin C, which helps prevent scurvy during the long winter months. There are also some root vegetables, probably cattail roots or something similar, that they stored in the coldest part of the cave, where they've essentially created a natural freezer. The meal is eaten slowly, deliberately, with conversation and even laughter. These people aren't just fueling their bodies. They're reinforcing social bonds, sharing stories, teaching the young ones about the world and how to survive in it. And here's the key thing about this meal pattern. By eating their largest meal in the mid to late afternoon, and then eating only lightly, if at all, in the evening, they're giving their digestive systems plenty of time to process the food before they lie down to sleep. Modern research tells us that eating a large meal within 3 hours of bedtime disrupts sleep quality, causing more nighttime awakenings, less deep sleep, and more digestive discomfort. But these people, through trial and error over countless generations, have figured out the optimal eating pattern for good sleep. They front-load their calories during the daylight hours when they need energy for work and movement. Then, as evening approaches and their bodies begin winding down towards sleep, their digestive systems are also winding down, having already processed most of the day's food. The one thing they do have in the evening is that tea made from the chaga fungus, sometimes mixed with other herbs they've collected. This warm liquid serves multiple purposes. It provides comfort and warmth. It promotes bonding as they pass the drinking vessels around the fire. And the bioactive compounds in the chaga and herbs actually support sleep, reducing inflammation and promoting the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode that's essential for quality sleep. It's all connected, you see. The timing of meals, the composition of those meals, the rituals around eating and drinking, the social connections reinforced through shared food. All of it contributes to the conditions for excellent sleep. As full darkness settles over the landscape and the temperature outside drops even further, the family begins the final preparations for sleep. The children are already drowsy, their eyes heavy, their movements slow. The firekeeper adds several large pieces of oak to the fire, positioning them carefully so they'll burn slowly and steadily through the night. She's done this thousands of times. She knows exactly how to arrange the wood, where to place it, how to create a fire that'll keep the cave warm for the next 8 hours without any attention. The young man whose turn it is for first watch settles near the entrance. He's wearing extra furs as he'll be in the coldest part of the cave. He has a spear within easy reach, though he's unlikely to need it. The real predators, the dire wolves and cave lions and short-faced bears, are all dealing with the same brutal conditions as the humans. They're conserved energy, not wandering around looking for trouble. One by one, the family members settle into their sleeping spots. And this is important. They don't sleep randomly scattered around the cave. There's a specific arrangement, refined over years of experience, that maximizes warmth and comfort and safety. The youngest children sleep in the middle, the warmest spot, surrounded by adults. The nursing mother and her infant sleep close to the fire but not too close, positioned so she can tend to the baby easily if needed during the night. The older children and adolescents sleep in a cluster, their combined body heat keeping them warm. The adults form an outer ring, their bodies creating an additional insulating layer for the more vulnerable members of the group. And the firekeeper, she sleeps in a spot where she can see the fire without having to move much, where she can monitor its state even in her sleep. She'll wake 2 or 3 times during the night, not from disturbance but from internal timing, and she'll check the fire each time, adding wood if needed, though usually her careful arrangement means no attention is needed until morning. As they settle in, there's a period of quiet conversation. Low voices, barely above a whisper. The children want stories, as they always do, and tonight one of the grandfathers tells a tale about the time he hunted a mammoth as a young man, how the beast was as big as the cave, how it took 20 hunters to bring it down, how they feasted for weeks on the meat and used every part of the animal for tools and clothing and shelter. It's a story the children have heard before, many times, but they never tire of it. The repetition is soothing. The familiar narrative is comforting. It's like a lullaby, really, anchoring them in their family's history, in their people's traditions, making them feel connected to something larger than themselves. And one by one, they drift off. The children first, their breathing becoming slow and rhythmic. Then the younger adults, exhausted from the day's work. Then the middle-aged members of the group. Finally, the elders, including the firekeeper, who lies on her side, her mate's arm draped over her, their bodies fitting together in the way that only comes from decades of sleeping side by side. The cave grows quiet except for the crackle of the fire, the whisper of the wind outside, and the gentle breathing of sleeping humans. The young man on watch sits motionless near the entrance, his eyes adjusted to the darkness, occasionally glancing back at the fire, then out at the moonlit snow beyond the cave entrance. This is peace, this is what true rest looks like. Not the restless, anxious sleep of modern people, disturbed by noise and light and electromagnetic fields, and racing thoughts about tomorrow's meetings or bills or social media drama. No, this is the deep, restorative sleep of people who are perfectly aligned with their environment, who are living in harmony with natural rhythms, who trust their community and their own abilities to handle whatever tomorrow brings. But let me tell you something that's going to seem counterintuitive. Despite all the hardships, despite the cold and the danger and the uncertainty, these people are probably healthier than most modern humans. Their sleep quality is better. Their stress levels, despite the objective dangers they face, are probably lower. Their sense of purpose and meaning is stronger. Their social connections are deeper. How is that possible? How can people living in such harsh conditions be healthier and happier than people living in our modern comfort? The answer lies in understanding what humans actually need to thrive. We evolved over millions of years in conditions much more like this cave than like our modern apartments and houses. Our bodies and brains are designed for this kind of life. Regular physical activity, natural light exposure, social connection, meaningful work, a clear sense of purpose, and alignment with natural rhythms. Modern life, for all its comforts and conveniences, often deprives us of these fundamental needs. We sit all day. We're exposed to artificial light at all hours. We're socially isolated despite being constantly connected through technology. Our work feels meaningless or alienating. We have no real sense of purpose beyond consumption and entertainment. Our circadian rhythms are scrambled. Is it any wonder we have an epidemic of sleep problems, anxiety, depression, and chronic disease? These Ice Age people, by contrast, are living in a way that meets all their fundamental human needs. Yes, it's physically demanding. Yes, there are real dangers. Yes, there's less margin for error, but their lives have meaning. They know why they wake up every morning. They know their role in their community. They have deep, trusting relationships with the people around them. They're aligned with natural rhythms. They're engaged in work that directly contributes to their survival and well-being. And as a result, despite the harsh conditions, they sleep like Barbies. Speaking of which, let's talk about the actual Barbies in this cave, because infant sleep in the Ice Age was radically different from infant sleep in the modern world, and understanding this difference reveals even more about why these people slept so well. That nursing mother I mentioned earlier, the one sleeping near the fire with her infant son, she's following a practice that's completely at odds with modern Western parenting advice. The baby sleeps right next to her, skin to skin, all night long. He nurses frequently throughout the night, probably 4 or 5 times, without either of them fully waking up. She responds to his first stirrings instantly, offering the breast before he even has a chance to cry. In modern Western culture, we've been told that Barbies should sleep alone in their own cribs, ideally in their own rooms. We're told that we need to sleep train them, to teach them to self-soothe, to let them cry it out. We treat nighttime parenting as a problem to be solved rather than a normal part of infant care. But from an evolutionary perspective, from the perspective of what Barbies actually need and what mothers actually need, the Ice Age approach makes way more sense. Human Barbies are born incredibly helpless compared to other mammals. They can't regulate their own temperature very well. They need to eat frequently because breast milk is digested quickly. They need constant reassurance that they're safe and cared for. And mothers who sleep close to their Barbies and nurse them frequently actually sleep better, not worse. Their sleep cycles synchronize with their Barbie sleep cycles. They produce more oxytocin, the bonding hormone that also promotes relaxation and sleep. They experience less anxiety because they can monitor their Barbies constantly without having to get up and walk to another room. The result is that both mother and baby get more sleep overall, and the quality of that sleep is better. The baby feels safe and secure, which allows for deeper, more restful sleep. The mother doesn't have to fully wake up multiple times per night to attend to a crying baby in another room. It's a system that evolved over millions of years, and it works beautifully. Only in the last century or so, in certain Western cultures, have we decided that we know better than evolution and that Barbies should sleep alone. The result, an epidemic of exhausted parents and Barbies with sleep problems. But in this cave, 30,000 years ago, they're doing what comes naturally, what evolution designed us to do. And as a result, even with a newborn baby in the cave, everyone sleeps well. The night deepens, hours pass. The fire burns lower, the flames dying down to glowing coals that pulse with heat. The cave is warm, not hot but comfortably warm, maybe 60 degrees Fahrenheit in the sleeping area. Outside, it's -15 and dropping. The wind has died down somewhat, but the cold is intense, absolutely brutal, the kind of cold that would kill an exposed human in minutes. But inside the cave, wrapped in furs, surrounded by family, warmed by the fire and by each other's body heat, these people sleep on peacefully. Their breathing is slow and rhythmic. Their heart rates are low. They're spending long periods in deep, slow-wave sleep, the most restorative sleep stage, the one where your body repairs itself, where your immune system is strengthened, where memories are consolidated. Around midnight, by modern reckoning, the firekeeper stirs. She doesn't fully wake, doesn't even open her eyes, but some internal clock tells her it's time to check the fire. She shifts slightly, moving just enough to see the coals. They're still glowing strongly, plenty of heat left. She settles back down, already drifting back to sleep before she's even completed the movement. This ability to check on things without fully waking, to maintain awareness of important matters even during sleep, is something that modern people have largely lost. We tend to think of sleep as a binary state. You're either asleep or you're awake, but the reality is more nuanced. There are different levels of sleep, different levels of consciousness, and it's possible to maintain certain types of awareness even during sleep. The firekeeper has developed this ability over decades of practice. She can monitor the fire in her sleep, responding if needed but not disturbing her rest if everything is fine. It's a skill that's incredibly valuable in this environment, where constant vigilance is necessary but constant wakefulness would be unsustainable. Around 2 in the morning, the watch changes. The first young man gently wakes his replacement, a teenager who's recently been inducted into the rotation. The teen rises quietly, moving carefully to avoid disturbing the others. He wraps himself in extra furs and takes up position near the entrance. The first watchman returns to his sleeping spot and is unconscious within minutes, his body grateful for the chance to sink into deep sleep. The new watchman sits in the darkness, listening. At first, his mind is busy, full of thoughts and worries and plans. He's thinking about a girl from another family group they encountered last summer, wondering if they'll meet again when the weather warms. He's thinking about the upcoming hunt he'll be allowed to participate in, his first major hunt, and whether he'll perform well or embarrass himself. But gradually, as the minutes pass, his mind quiets. The darkness and the silence and the cold air on his face all conspire to bring him into a state of relaxed awareness. He's not sleeping, but he's not thinking either. He's just being present, monitoring the moment, existing in the now. This is a form of meditation, though he wouldn't call it that. It's just something that happens naturally when you sit quietly in the dark for an extended period. When you're not trying to distract yourself with entertainment or activity, when you allow your mind to settle into its natural state. Modern meditation teachers spend years trying to teach people to achieve this state of quiet awareness. But for this young man, it comes naturally, a byproduct of his lifestyle and environment. And when his watch is over and he returns to sleep, he'll drop into deep rest almost instantly, his mind already primed for quality sleep by this period of meditative awareness. If you're still with me on this journey, and I hope you are, hit that like button if you haven't already. This kind of deep, immersive historical content takes a lot of research and effort to create, and your likes tell YouTube that this is valuable content that should be shown to more people who are interested in history, sleep, and the fascinating ways our ancestors lived. Now, as the night continues, let me tell you about something that's happening inside the bodies of these sleeping people. Something invisible but crucial, something that connects directly to why they're able to thrive in such a harsh environment. Their immune systems are working overtime, not because they're sick, but because sleep is when the immune system does its most important work. During deep sleep, the body produces cytokines, proteins that help fight infection and inflammation. It produces T cells, white blood cells that are crucial for immune function. It consolidates immune memories, making the body better able to respond to threats it's encountered before. This Ice Age winter, with its bitter cold and limited food and constant physical stress, should be devastating to immune function. And for many people, it is. Winter is when the weak and the young and the old are most likely to die, not usually from cold directly, but from infections that their weakened immune systems can't fight off. But this family group is holding steady. They've had no serious illnesses so far this winter. Minor injuries heal quickly. Cuts and scrapes don't get infected. Everyone's energy levels remain relatively stable, despite the reduced food intake that's inevitable in winter. The secret: quality sleep. Consistent, deep, restorative sleep that allows their immune systems to function at peak efficiency. Modern research has shown that people who get less than 7 hours of quality sleep per night are 3 times more likely to develop a cold when exposed to the virus. Poor sleep reduces the production of protective cytokines and infection-fighting antibodies. It makes vaccines less effective. It increases inflammation throughout the body. These Ice Age people don't know any of this scientific detail, of course. They just know, from observation passed down through generations, that people who sleep poorly get sick more often and die younger. They know that maintaining good sleep is as important as finding food or staying warm. It's a survival priority, not a luxury. And so they've built their entire lifestyle around supporting quality sleep. The evening rituals, the carefully managed fire, the comfortable sleeping arrangements, the watch system that lets everyone else fully relax, the early dinner timing, the social bonds that provide a sense of safety. All of it contributes to sleep quality, and all of it contributes to survival. Around 4 in the morning, something interesting begins to happen. Several members of the group begin to stir, not waking fully but shifting into lighter sleep. This is the transition from first sleep to the wakeful period I mentioned earlier. In modern times, this is when many people would check their phones or watch TV or stress about not being able to sleep. But here in this cave, the people who wake simply lie quietly under their furs. Some gaze at the fire, watching the play of light and shadow on the cave walls. Some think about the day ahead, making mental plans. Some engage in quiet intimacy with their partners. Some simply exist in that peaceful state between sleeping and waking, not trying to force anything, just being. The nursing mother wakes more fully and nurses her baby, who's begun to stir. She does this without getting up, without even fully emerging from under the furs. The baby latches on and begins to nurse, and both of them stay in that drowsy, half-asleep state. Within 15 minutes, the baby has had his fill and they both drift back to sleep. One of the grandfathers gets up to relieve himself at the designated spot near the cave entrance. The young man on watch nods to him respectfully. The old man pauses for a moment, looking out at the night. The snow has stopped and the moon is visible now between scattered clouds, casting a silvery light over the frozen landscape. It's beautiful in its way, terrible and beautiful, a world of ice and silence. He returns to his sleeping spot, and as he settles back under the furs, he thinks about his own grandfather, who slept in this very same spot when the old man was young. His grandfather had slept here, and his grandfather's grandfather before him, going back generations, all of them finding rest and safety in this cave. all of them surviving the brutal winters, all of them passing down their knowledge and wisdom to the next generation. There's something deeply comforting about that continuity, that sense of being part of a chain that stretches back into the mists of time and will hopefully stretch forward far into the future. It's a kind of immortality, not of the individual but of the family, the tribe, the species. Each generation does its part, survives its challenges, raises its children, and passes the torch. The old man drifts back to sleep with these thoughts, and his sleep is peaceful, untroubled by the fears of death or meaninglessness that plague so many modern people. He knows his place in the grand scheme of things. He knows his life has meaning and purpose. And that knowledge, that sense of connection to something larger than himself, allows him to rest easy. By 5 a.m, the cave is entering the final stage of the night's sleep. This is when REM sleep predominates, when dreaming is most vivid and most likely to be remembered. Throughout the cave, sleeping people twitch and murmur, their eyes moving rapidly beneath closed lids, their brains processing the day's experiences, consolidating memories, working through emotional content. The firekeeper dreams of summer, of warm sun on her skin and the taste of berries fresh from the bush. One of the children dreams of mammoths, great herds of them stretching across the plain and himself riding on the back of one, holding tight to its thick fur. A young woman dreams of the child she's carrying in her belly, now just beginning to show, dreams of holding that child, of nursing it, of watching it grow. These dreams aren't random neural noise. They serve important psychological and cognitive functions. They help process emotions, consolidate learning, solve problems, and prepare for future challenges. And the fact that these people are getting plenty of REM sleep, unlike many modern people who are chronically sleep deprived, means they're getting the full benefit of these functions. Around 6 a.m, as the first hint of dawn begins to lighten the eastern sky, the firekeeper wakes naturally. She doesn't jolt awake or fight to stay asleep. She simply opens her eyes, immediately alert but calm, and begins her morning routine. First, she tends the fire, which has burned down to coals but is still warm. She adds kindling and blows gently on the coals until the kindling catches. Then she adds larger pieces of wood, rebuilding the fire that will warm the cave and cook their breakfast. As the fire grows, its light and warmth spread through the cave. One by one, the others begin to wake. Not all at once, but gradually, naturally, each person waking when their body is ready. There are no alarm clocks here, no jarring ringtones or beeping devices. Just natural waking, prompted by the increasing light and warmth and the sounds of others beginning to stir. The children wake last, as children do, and they wake slowly, reluctantly leaving the warmth of their furs. But when they do emerge, they're cheerful and energetic, ready for the day ahead. Because they've had a full night of quality sleep, their mood regulation is good, their cognitive function is sharp, their immune systems are primed. As the family gathers around the fire for a simple breakfast of leftovers and hot water with herbs, there's a sense of peace and contentment that pervades the group. They've survived another night. They're together. They're warm and fed and rested. And whatever challenges today brings, they'll face them as a family, as a team. This is the secret of Ice Age sleep. It's not about perfect conditions or ideal circumstances. It's about alignment with natural rhythms, about strong social bonds, about a sense of purpose and meaning, about trust and safety and community. And you know what's really wild? We could have this too. Not the brutal cold and the constant danger, obviously, but the quality of sleep, the sense of peace and connection, the alignment with natural rhythms. We have choices about how we live, about what we prioritize, about how we structure our days and nights. But before we explore that more, let me take you deeper into the secrets of Ice Age sleep, because we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more to understand about how these people achieved such remarkable rest in such challenging conditions. Let's talk about breathing. Something so simple, so automatic, that most of us never think about it. But the way these Ice Age people breathe, especially during sleep, is fundamentally different from how most modern people breathe. In the modern world, many of us are chronic mouth breathers, especially during sleep. We sleep with our mouths hanging open, sometimes snoring, sometimes experiencing sleep apnea, often waking up with dry mouth and sore throat. This isn't just uncomfortable, it's actively harmful to health. Mouth breathing during sleep is associated with increased risk of cavities, gum disease, high blood pressure, and poor sleep quality. But these Ice Age people, they're nose breathers, almost without exception. Their nasal passages are clear and well developed from a lifetime of breathing correctly. Even during sleep, even in the cold, dry air of the cave, they breathe through their noses. Why does this matter? Nasal breathing is superior to mouth breathing in almost every way. Your nose is designed to filter, warm, and humidify air before it reaches your lungs. It produces nitric oxide, a molecule that dilates blood vessels and improves oxygen absorption. It regulates breathing rate, preventing the hyperventilation that can occur with mouth breathing. But there's more. The structure of these people's faces and jaws is different from modern humans. Because they've spent their entire lives chewing tough, unprocessed foods and breathing through their noses, their jaws are broader and their airways are more open. They don't experience the crowded teeth and narrow airways that plague modern people who grow up eating soft, processed foods and breathing through their mouths. This means they don't snore, they don't have sleep apnea. Their breathing during sleep is quiet, steady, efficient, and this contributes enormously to their sleep quality. They spend more time in deep sleep, their oxygen levels remain stable throughout the night, and they wake up refreshed rather than groggy. It's a perfect example of how lifestyle factors, things that seem unrelated to sleep, actually have profound impacts on sleep quality. The fact that they eat tough, chewy foods during their youth shapes the development of their facial structure, which determines how well they breathe, which affects how well they sleep. Everything is connected. Now let me tell you about something else that's happening in this cave, something that might surprise you. The way these people are sleeping is actually changing their brain structure over time, making them smarter, more resilient, more adaptable. During sleep, particularly during deep slow-wave sleep, something remarkable happens in the brain. A waste clearance system called the glymphatic system kicks into high gear, flushing out metabolic waste products that have accumulated during waking hours. This includes proteins like beta-amyloid, which is associated with Alzheimer's disease, and tau, which is associated with various neurodegenerative conditions. The glymphatic system is about 10 times more active during sleep than during waking hours. It's literally cleaning your brain, removing the trash, making space for new learning and new memories. And the amount of cleaning that occurs is directly related to the quality and quantity of deep sleep you get. These Ice Age people, with their long nights of high-quality sleep, are getting exceptional glymphatic clearance. Their brains are being thoroughly cleaned every single night, and this has profound effects on their cognitive function, their memory, their ability to learn and adapt. But it goes beyond just waste clearance. During sleep, particularly during REM sleep, the brain is also consolidating memories and forming new neural connections. Experiences from the waking hours are being processed, integrated, stored. Skills that were practiced during the day are being refined and optimized at the neural level. That young man who's been learning to knap flint, to create sharp stone tools, every night while he sleeps, his brain is processing what he learned that day, strengthening the neural pathways involved in the precise hand movements and the visual assessment of stone quality. When he wakes up, he's literally better at the skill than he was when he went to sleep, even though he hasn't practiced during the night. That young woman who's pregnant with her first child, she's been watching the experienced mothers, learning how they care for their Barbies. And every night her brain is consolidating those observations, preparing her for motherhood. When her baby arrives, she'll have a reservoir of knowledge and skills that feel intuitive, natural, even though she's never done this before, because her sleeping brain has been integrating what she observed. This process of sleep-dependent learning and skill consolidation is crucial for survival in the Ice Age. These people don't have books or schools or YouTube tutorials. They have observation, practice, and the nightly consolidation that happens during quality sleep, and it works incredibly well. Modern research has shown that sleep deprivation severely impairs learning and memory. Students who cram all night before an exam perform worse than those who study less but get a good night's sleep. Athletes who don't get enough sleep show decreased performance and slower skill acquisition. The same principles apply to our Ice Age ancestors, except for them, the stakes are much higher. Learning effectively isn't about getting good grades or winning games, it's about surviving to see another day. And there's one more aspect of sleep-related brain changes that's absolutely crucial for these Ice Age people: emotional regulation and psychological resilience. Living in the Ice Age is psychologically demanding. You face constant uncertainty about food availability. You deal with the loss of loved ones to accidents, illness, or violence. You experience the stress of dangerous hunts and the fear of predators. You endure long, dark winters when cabin fever and interpersonal tensions can run high. Without good coping mechanisms, without psychological resilience, you'd break under this constant stress. You'd become anxious, depressed, unable to function. And in this environment, that would be a death sentence. But sleep, quality sleep, is one of the most powerful tools for building and maintaining psychological resilience. During REM sleep, the brain processes emotional experiences, taking the emotional sting out of difficult memories while preserving the factual information. It's like a form of overnight therapy, helping you come to terms with challenging experiences and move forward. People who get adequate REM sleep show better emotional regulation, less anxiety, less reactivity to stress. They bounce back from setbacks more quickly. They maintain optimism and motivation even in difficult circumstances. All of these qualities are crucial for Ice Age survival. And these people, with their long nights of quality sleep, including plenty of REM sleep, develop exceptional psychological resilience. They can face danger without panicking. They can experience loss without being destroyed by it. They can maintain hope and purpose even in the darkest days of winter. This isn't just toughness or stoicism, though they have those qualities too. It's neurological resilience built through consistent, quality sleep. Their brains have been shaped by tens of thousands of nights of good sleep, making them psychologically capable of handling their harsh reality. Before we continue deeper into this story, I want to ask you something. Are you learning things that challenge your assumptions about sleep and survival and human capability? Are you starting to see connections between ancient wisdom and modern sleep science? If so, please leave a comment sharing your biggest takeaway so far. And consider subscribing to Dreamless Timelines if you haven't already, because we're going to explore so many more fascinating stories from history, all designed to help you relax, learn, and drift into restful sleep. Now, let's talk about something that might seem mundane, but is actually crucial to Ice Age sleep: how these people deal with the need to urinate during the night. In our modern world, nighttime urination, what doctors call nocturia, is a major sleep disruptor. Many people wake up multiple times per night to go to the bathroom, fragmenting their sleep and reducing its restorative quality. This is especially common in older adults, but it affects people of all ages. But these Ice Age people have developed a system that minimizes sleep disruption from this natural need. First, and most importantly, they've learned through experience to limit fluid intake in the evening hours. They drink plenty during the day, staying well hydrated, but as evening approaches and their bodies begin winding down towards sleep, they drink less. This isn't about being uncomfortable or thirsty. It's about understanding the natural rhythm of kidney function and working with it rather than against it. Your kidneys naturally produce less urine during sleep as antidiuretic hormone levels rise. But if you drink a lot of fluids right before bed, you overwhelm this natural mechanism, and your bladder fills up during the night, forcing you to wake. Second, they've established a designated spot near the cave entrance for nighttime elimination. It's not far from the sleeping area, maybe 20 feet, but it's separate enough that the smell isn't an issue. And because it's close, anyone who needs to urinate during the night can do so quickly and easily without fully waking up or disturbing others. The men generally urinate standing at the designated spot. The women use a different technique, squatting over a spot they've covered with absorbent materials that will be removed in the morning. It's simple, practical, and effective. But here's the interesting part. Most nights, most people don't need to urinate at all. Their fluid intake timing is dialed in perfectly. Their bladders have been trained through a lifetime of this routine, and they sleep straight through, or wake only during the natural between sleep cycles wakeful period, which is when they might take care of elimination before returning to sleep. The result is that bathroom needs rarely disrupt their sleep. It's just another example of how these people have optimized every aspect of their lifestyle to support quality sleep. Nothing is left to chance. Everything is intentional, refined through generations of experience. Now, as the morning of this particular winter day progresses and the family goes about their business, let me shift gears and tell you about another family group, living in a different cave about 10 miles away, because their story illustrates something important about the variability in Ice Age sleep practices and the consequences of not getting it right. This second family group is smaller, just 11 people, and they've been having problems this winter. They've lost 2 members already, an elderly man and a young child, both to a respiratory infection that swept through the group a month ago. The survivors are struggling, and one of the key reasons is poor sleep. Their cave is less ideal than the first family's cave. It doesn't have that natural chimney for smoke ventilation, so they have to keep the fire smaller to avoid filling the space with smoke. But a smaller fire means less warmth, which means they're colder at night, which disrupts sleep. They also made the mistake of positioning their sleeping area too close to the cave entrance, trying to maximize the benefit from their small fire. But this means they're more exposed to drafts and temperature fluctuations, and they're constantly disturbed by sounds from outside: wind, animals, falling ice. Worse, their group dynamics have deteriorated. There's conflict between 2 of the adult men, some kind of dispute over status or resources that's created tension throughout the group. People are taking sides, relationships are strained, and the sense of safety and trust that's so crucial for good sleep has been eroded. The result, most people in this group are chronically sleep deprived. They're irritable and anxious. Their judgment is impaired. When they do hunt, they're less successful because their reaction times are slower and their coordination is off. They're more susceptible to illness because their immune systems are compromised. And the whole situation feeds on itself in a vicious cycle. Poor sleep leads to poor decisions and increased conflict, which leads to more stress and worse sleep. This group is in real danger of not making it through the winter. And the root cause isn't lack of food or bad luck with hunting. It's a breakdown in the social and environmental factors that support quality sleep. The contrast between these two groups illustrates something crucial. In extreme environments, sleep isn't a luxury or a minor factor. It's absolutely essential for survival. Get it right, like the first family group, and you thrive. Get it wrong, like the second group, and you're in serious trouble. Thankfully, there's still time for the second group to turn things around. The adults recognize that something is wrong, that the way they're living isn't working. And within their oral tradition, within the collective knowledge passed down through generations, there are guidelines for what makes a good winter camp and how to organize for optimal sleep. One of the women in the group, an aunt of the fire keeper from the first family, proposes that they send messengers to ask for advice and possibly to request permission to move to a better cave in the first family's territory. It's a humbling request, an admission of failure in some ways, but it might save their lives. This kind of intergroup cooperation, this willingness to help each other survive, is another key factor in Ice Age human success. We weren't the strongest animals or the fastest or the most individually capable, but we were social, we cooperated, we shared knowledge, we helped each other, and that made all the difference. The first family, when they hear the request, agrees to help. The firekeeper herself makes the journey to the struggling group's cave, despite her age and the dangerous conditions, because knowledge needs to be shared. She spends several days with them, teaching them what she knows about cave selection, fire management, sleeping arrangements, group dynamics, all the factors that contribute to quality sleep and successful winter survival. And slowly, over the following weeks, the second group begins to implement changes. They scout and find a better cave. They reorganize their sleeping arrangements. They work to repair their damaged social bonds, and their sleep begins to improve. They're not out of danger yet, and they've lost precious time and resources, but they have a fighting chance now. This story within a story illustrates something important: the knowledge required for successful Ice Age winter survival, including the knowledge of how to sleep well, isn't instinctive. It has to be learned, practiced, refined, and passed down. It's cultural knowledge, accumulated over countless generations, more valuable than any physical tool or weapon. And sleep is at the center of this knowledge because sleep affects everything else. Your ability to hunt, to make tools, to care for children, to maintain social relationships, to stay healthy, to think clearly and make good decisions, all of it depends on getting quality sleep. Now let's return to our main family group as evening approaches again. Another day has passed, another day of work and survival, and small victories and challenges. The snares yielded 2 more rabbits today. One of the adolescent boys successfully crafted his first truly sharp flint blade under the guidance of his father. The pregnant woman reported feeling the baby move for the first time, much to the excitement of the other women in the group. As the sun sets and the family gathers for their evening meal and the subsequent preparation for sleep, there's a sense of satisfaction of a day well lived. These people don't measure success in terms of wealth accumulated or status achieved or entertainment consumed. They measure it in simpler terms. Did we survive? Did we work together? Did we maintain our bonds? Did we pass on our knowledge to the young ones? Did we find moments of joy and beauty even in this harsh world? By these measures, today was a good day. And now, as darkness falls and the cold intensifies, they'll sleep again, deeply and peacefully, recharging for tomorrow. But before they do, let me tell you about one more aspect of their sleep routine that's absolutely fascinating: the role of storytelling and oral tradition in preparing for sleep. As I mentioned earlier, the children always want stories before sleep, and the adults are happy to oblige. But these aren't just entertainment. These stories serve multiple crucial functions that support both sleep quality and cultural survival. First, the stories create a bridge between waking activity and sleep. Instead of an abrupt transition from full alertness to trying to fall asleep, the storytelling creates a gradual wind-down period. The children settle under their furs, their bodies still, their minds engaged but not overstimulated, and they gradually drift from full wakefulness towards sleep as the story unfolds. Second, the stories reinforce social bonds and cultural identity. When the grandfather tells about hunting the mammoth, he's not just entertaining the kids. He's teaching them about their family history, about the skills and courage required for survival, about the importance of cooperation and perseverance. He's making them feel connected to something larger than themselves, giving them a sense of belonging and purpose. Third, the stories transmit practical knowledge in a memorable format. Many of the tales include information about animal behavior, plant identification, weather prediction, survival strategies. This information is wrapped in narrative, which makes it easier to remember than if it were just presented as a list of facts. The children absorb this knowledge almost without realizing they're learning, and years later, when they need to know which plants are safe to eat or how to track a particular animal, the information will be there, embedded in the stories they heard as children. Fourth, the stories help process emotions and experiences. When something scary or difficult happens, like a dangerous encounter with a predator or the loss of a community member, it often gets incorporated into the oral tradition. Not immediately, but gradually, as people talk about it and shape it into narrative form. This process helps everyone come to terms with the experience, finding meaning in it, integrating it into the community's collective understanding. And fifth, the stories activate the imagination in a specific way that's conducive to sleep. Unlike modern entertainment, which presents fully realized visual and auditory stimulation, stories require the listener to create the images in their own mind. This type of imaginative visualization, especially when done in a relaxed state while lying down, is very close to the mental state associated with falling asleep and dreaming. So when a child lies under their furs, listening to a story about the time their great-great-grandfather fought off a dire wolf, they're visualizing the scene, creating it in their imagination. And gradually, as they become drowsier, this visualization blends into dream imagery. The transition from waking imagination to sleeping dreams is smooth and natural. Before they even realize it, they're asleep. The adults benefit too, even though they're often the ones telling the stories. The act of storytelling, especially stories they've told many times before, is meditative. It requires focus but not intense concentration. It's engaging but not stressful. And often, an adult will begin telling a story to the children and find themselves becoming drowsy as well, the familiar rhythm of the narrative lulling them towards sleep. This tradition of bedtime storytelling, which has been largely lost in our modern world of screens and pre-bedtime TV watching, was once a universal human practice. And it served us well for tens of thousands of years, creating better sleep while also transmitting culture and knowledge and values from one generation to the next. Tonight, the story is about the first fire, a creation myth that explains how humans first learned to control fire. It's a story every member of the group has heard countless times, but it never gets old. The storyteller, one of the middle-aged men, tells it with subtle variations, emphasizing different details, adjusting the packing based on his audience's reactions. As the story unfolds, describing the trickster hero's journey to steal fire from the sky spirits, the children's eyes grow heavy. The younger ones drift off first mid-story, their breathing becoming slow and regular. The older children and adolescents last longer, but they too eventually succumb, falling asleep before the story concludes. The adults smile at this. It happens every time. The story is long enough and engaging enough to hold attention, but soothing enough in its familiar rhythm to facilitate sleep. It's perfectly calibrated, refined over thousands of tellings to serve its purpose. As the last child drops off to sleep and the storyteller's voice fades away, the cave grows quiet once more. The fire crackles softly. Outside, an owl calls, its voice carrying across the frozen landscape. The young man on first watch settles into position. And one by one, the adults also drift towards sleep, their minds quieting, their bodies relaxing into the furs. This is peace, this is home. This is safety, or as much safety as exists in this dangerous world. And it's enough. It's enough to allow for deep, restorative sleep, enough to make tomorrow possible. The night passes in its familiar rhythm. The watch changes. The fire burns down and is occasionally tended. People shift in their sleep, adjusting their positions, burrowing deeper under furs when the air grows colder toward dawn. The nursing mother feeds her baby several times, both of them barely waking. Everyone else sleeps on. Around 3 in the morning, one of the younger children has a nightmare, crying out in his sleep. His mother wakes instantly, responding before he's even fully awake himself. She makes soft, soothing sounds, stroking his hair, pulling him close. Within seconds, he's calmed, drifting back to sleep without ever having fully woken up. The whole interaction takes maybe 30 seconds, and then both mother and child are sleeping again. This rapid, effective response to a child's distress is another aspect of Ice Age parenting that supports quality sleep for everyone. The child learns that distress will be met immediately with comfort, which creates a deep sense of security. The mother's ability to respond without fully waking comes from practice and from sleeping light enough to maintain awareness of her children, even while sleeping. But it doesn't create chronic sleep deprivation for the mother, as you might expect, because she's not fighting against her natural instincts by trying to sleep in a separate room or ignore her child's needs. She's working with her biology, doing what mothers have evolved to do over millions of years. And as a result, she actually gets better quality sleep than a modern mother who struggles with whether to respond to a crying child, who lies awake feeling anxious and guilty, who has to fully wake up and walk to another room multiple times per night. It's another example of how the Ice Age approach, for all its apparent primitiveness, is actually more sophisticated and more aligned with human biology than many modern practices. As dawn approaches and the sky begins to lighten, the firekeeper wakes naturally, as she does every morning. For just a moment she lies still, listening. She hears the breathing of her family. She hears the pop and hiss of the dying fire. She hears the wind, still blowing but less fierce than it was yesterday. She hears in the distance the howl of a wolf, hunting or perhaps just singing to the dawn. She's 62 years old, which in this era is remarkable. Most people don't live this long. She survived diseases, injuries, famines, the brutal cold of dozens of winters, the dangers of childbirth back when she was young enough to have children. She's seen friends and family members die. She's made decisions that saved lives and decisions that ended them. And through it all, she's slept well. Every night, almost without exception, she's found rest and peace in sleep. And she knows, with the certainty that comes from a lifetime of experience, that this is one of the main reasons she's still alive. Sleep is survival. Sleep is health. Sleep is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Take care of your sleep, ensure conditions that support quality rest, and you give yourself the best possible chance of thriving. Neglect your sleep, and no amount of food or shelter or skill will save you in the end. She rises, begins her morning routine, and another day begins for this family in their limestone cave, 30,000 years in the past. Now, before we continue, let me shift perspective again and talk about something that connects Ice Age sleep to modern sleep science in a really interesting way. Because researchers have actually studied modern hunter-gatherer groups who live in conditions somewhat similar to our Ice Age ancestors, and the findings are absolutely fascinating. One of the most comprehensive studies looked at 3 different hunter-gatherer groups: the Hadza in Tanzania, the San in Namibia, and the Cavemen in Bolivia. These groups live without electricity, without modern amenities, in traditional ways that give us a window into how humans slept before industrialization. And what the researchers found challenges a lot of assumptions about sleep. First, these people don't actually sleep more than modern people. The average total sleep time was about 6.5 hours per night, which is actually less than the 7 to 9 hours usually recommended for modern adults. But, and this is crucial, the quality of their sleep is exceptional. They spend more time in deep, slow-wave sleep. They have fewer nighttime awakenings. They report feeling more rested and satisfied with their sleep. They have virtually no insomnia or other sleep disorders that are epidemic in modern societies. Why? What makes their sleep so much more restorative despite being shorter in duration? The researchers identified several key factors, many of which we've already discussed in the context of our Ice Age family. First, exposure to natural light patterns. These hunter-gatherers are exposed to very bright light during the day, especially in the morning, and to very dim light in the evening and at night. This creates strong circadian signals that entrain their body clocks perfectly to the natural day-night cycle. Second, physical activity. They walk an average of 6 to 9 miles per day, engage in all sorts of physical labor, and are generally active throughout the day. This physical activity, especially when done outdoors in natural light, promotes deeper sleep at night. Third, regular meal timing that aligns with their circadian rhythms. They eat their largest meal in the mid to late afternoon, and very little in the evening. This gives their digestive systems time to process food before sleep. Fourth, natural temperature variation. Their sleeping environments cool down at night, sometimes significantly. This drop in temperature is a powerful sleep signal, promoting deeper and more continuous sleep. In contrast, most modern people sleep in climate-controlled environments where temperature remains constant throughout the night. Fifth, social sleeping arrangements. Most hunter-gatherers sleep in close proximity to family members, creating a sense of safety and connection that promotes relaxation and sleep quality. Sixth, absence of artificial light, especially blue light from screens, which suppresses melatonin production and disrupts circadian rhythms. Seventh, absence of the psychological stresses that plague modern life. Work deadlines, financial worries, social media comparison, 24/7 news cycles, and so on. While hunter-gatherers certainly face stress, it's different in nature and timing from modern stress. And eighth, a cultural attitude towards sleep that prioritizes it as essential rather than viewing it as a waste of time or something to be minimized in favor of productivity. All of these factors combine to create sleep that's not just adequate but optimal. And the result is that hunter-gatherers show remarkably low rates of chronic diseases that plague modern societies. Cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, depression, anxiety, dementia. Now, does this mean we should all go back to living in caves and hunting mammoths? Of course not. That's neither practical nor desirable. But it does mean we should pay attention to what we've lost in our modern lifestyle and think about how we might reclaim some of these sleep-supporting factors. We We can't control the sun, but we can get bright light exposure in the morning and dim our lights in the evening. We can't hunt woolly mammoths, but we can incorporate regular physical activity into our days. We can't sleep in caves, but we can create sleeping environments that cool down at night. We can't eliminate all modern stress, but we can establish boundaries around work and technology and create calmer evening routines. The Ice Age might seem impossibly distant and irrelevant to our modern lives, but the lessons about sleep are timeless. Our biology hasn't changed that much in 30,000 years. Our brains and bodies still respond to the same signals, still need the same basic conditions to function optimally. And that's actually good news, because it means the solutions to our modern sleep crisis are within reach. We don't need some revolutionary new technology or pharmaceutical breakthrough. We just need to rediscover and apply the wisdom that our ancestors developed over thousands of years of trial and error. If you're finding value in this journey through history and sleep science, if these connections between ancient wisdom and modern understanding are illuminating something for you, take a moment to leave a comment. Tell me what surprises you most or what you're going to try in your own sleep routine. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and join the Dreamless Timelines community. We're all about exploring history in ways that help you relax, learn, and find that deep, peaceful sleep that our ancestors enjoyed. Now, let's dive deeper into another aspect of Ice Age sleep that's absolutely crucial but often overlooked: the role of physical exhaustion and how it differs from modern fatigue. In our modern world, many of us end the day feeling tired but wired. We're mentally exhausted from staring at screens, making decisions, dealing with information overload, navigating social and work demands. But we're not physically exhausted. We've spent most of the day sitting, our bodies barely moving, our muscles hardly challenged. This creates a mismatch between mental fatigue and physical readiness for sleep. Your mind is fried, but your body still has energy to burn. And this mismatch makes it harder to fall asleep and reduces sleep quality when you finally do drift off. But our Ice Age family, they experience a different kind of tiredness, one that's more conducive to deep, restorative sleep. Let me walk you through a typical day to show you what I mean. The day begins shortly after dawn. Even before breakfast, there's work to do. The men and older boys check the snares and traps, which might involve walking several miles through snow and rough terrain. This isn't a leisurely stroll. You're climbing over rocks, pushing through brush, constantly scanning for danger, moving with purpose and intensity. Meanwhile, the women and girls are working too. Someone needs to fetch water, which means chipping through ice and carrying heavy containers back to the cave. Someone needs to gather firewood, which means venturing into the forest, selecting appropriate dead branches, breaking them down to size and hauling them back. Someone needs to process yesterday's kills, scraping hides, cutting meat, preparing food. After breakfast, the real work of the day begins. Maybe it's a hunting day, which means tracking animals for hours, possibly running at full speed when you spot prey, engaging in the intense physical effort of the kill if you're successful. Even if the hunt isn't successful, you've walked 10 or 15 miles, often through snow, often carrying weapons and supplies. Or maybe it's a craft day, focused on making and repairing tools, clothing, and other necessities. This might seem less physically demanding, but it's not. Knapping flint requires hours of precise, forceful striking. Scraping and tanning hides is brutal on your arms and shoulders. Sewing leather or fur with bone needles and sinew thread is painstaking work that leaves your hands and fingers aching. Or maybe it's a maintenance day, focused on improving the cave or the camp. You're moving rocks, rearranging the sleeping platforms, gathering and spreading fresh bedding materials, all of which requires sustained physical effort. And throughout all of this, you're dealing with the cold. Your body is constantly working to maintain its core temperature, burning calories just to stay warm. Even when you're sitting still, you're expending more energy than a modern person sitting in a climate-controlled environment. By the time evening rolls around, everyone is genuinely, thoroughly physically exhausted. Their muscles are tired. Their bodies have burned thousands of calories. They've used their physicality in ways that evolution designed us for, engaging in the kinds of movements and exertions that signal to the body. You've done your work, you've expended your energy. Now it's time to rest and recover. This physical exhaustion is one of the most powerful sleep signals there is. When your body is genuinely tired from physical activity, especially when that activity occurred outdoors in natural light, falling asleep becomes easy. Your body demands rest. Your mind doesn't have the energy to race with anxious thoughts or engage in rumination. You just sleep. And the quality of that sleep is different too. When you're physically exhausted, you spend more time in deep, slow-wave sleep, which is the most restorative sleep stage. This is when your body does its major repair work, when growth hormone is released, when muscles recover and strengthen, when the immune system is bolstered. Modern people with our sedentary lifestyles often don't experience enough physical exhaustion to trigger adequate amounts of deep sleep. We might feel tired, but it's a mental tiredness, a different beast entirely. And as a result, our sleep is lighter, more easily disrupted, less restorative. The Ice Age people don't have this problem. Their lifestyle ensures that by evening, they're ready for sleep in every sense of the word. Mind and body are aligned in their need for rest, and that alignment makes all the difference. But physical exhaustion alone isn't enough for optimal sleep. You also need recovery, and this is where the Ice Age lifestyle shows another stroke of brilliance, the balance between exertion and rest. Modern people often make the mistake of thinking more is always better. More exercise, more productivity, more hustle. We glorify constant busyness and feel guilty about rest, but this approach is counterproductive, especially when it comes to sleep quality and overall health. The Ice Age people understand, through observation and experience, that rest is just as important as work. After a day of intense physical activity, they don't try to cram in extra tasks or feel guilty about relaxing. They rest, they sit by the fire talking quietly. They work on small, undemanding tasks like repairing tools. They tell stories. They play simple games with the children. They let their bodies recover. This recovery time is crucial for sleep quality. When you push yourself right up until bedtime, when you maintain high activity levels until the moment you try to sleep, your body is still in a sympathetic nervous system state, the fight or flight mode. Your heart rate is elevated, your cortisol levels are high, your mind is alert, and trying to sleep from this state is difficult and often unsuccessful. But when you build in a few hours of low-intensity activity and social relaxation before sleep, you give your body time to shift into the parasympathetic nervous system state, the rest and digest mode. Your heart rate comes down, your cortisol levels drop, your muscles relax, your mind quiets. By the time you actually lie down to sleep, your body is primed and ready. The Ice Age people's evening routine, which I've described, creates this transition beautifully. The meal itself, consumed in mid to late afternoon, is part of the recovery process. The social time around the fire afterward allows for continued physical recovery while maintaining connection and engagement. The storytelling ritual creates the final bridge into sleep. It's a system that honors the body's needs and works with natural biological rhythms rather than fighting against them. And the result is sleep that comes easily and restores completely. Now, let me tell you about something that happened to this family group a few years ago, an event that tested everything they knew about winter survival and sleep, and taught them lessons that probably saved lives. It was a winter much colder than this one, the coldest anyone could remember. The temperature dropped so low that their breath froze on their faces. The fire in the cave, even when built to its largest safe size, barely kept the sleeping area above freezing. People huddled together under every available fur, and still they shivered. For the first few nights, no one slept well. The cold was too intense, too intrusive. People dozed fitfully, waking frequently, never dropping into deep sleep. And quickly the effects began to show. People became irritable and clumsy. Decision-making suffered. 2 people developed respiratory infections. Morale plummeted. The firekeeper knew they were in trouble. If this continued, people would start dying. So she called a family meeting, which was unusual. Normally, the adults made decisions through informal discussion and consensus. But this situation required coordinated action, new strategies, innovation. They discussed everything they knew about staying warm and sleeping well. And then they started experimenting, trying techniques that hadn't been necessary in milder winters, but might make the difference now. First, they completely reorganized the sleeping arrangements. Instead of the usual family clusters, they created one large sleeping group, everyone pressed together in the center of the cave, maximizing shared body heat. The most vulnerable, the very young and the very old, were placed in the absolute center. The adults formed a protective ring around them. Second, they created a windbreak inside the cave entrance using stacked rocks and stretched hides. This helped keep the coldest air from penetrating all the way to the sleeping area. Third, they doubled the thickness of the bedding platform, adding more branches and more grass to increase insulation from the cold stone floor. Fourth, they changed their fire management strategy. Instead of one long-burning fire, they built 2 smaller fires positioned to create better heat circulation through the sleeping area. This required more nighttime tending, so they shortened the watch rotations to 1 hour instead of 2, ensuring someone was always awake to maintain both fires. Fifth, and this was the firekeeper's insight, they heated rocks in the fire during the evening, and then, when the rocks were thoroughly hot, they wrapped them in leather and placed them under the furs with the most vulnerable individuals. These heated rocks radiated warmth for hours, providing localized heating that made a huge difference. 6. They adjusted their clothing strategy. Everyone wore their warmest furs to sleep, not just as covering but as clothing. This felt uncomfortable at first, restrictive, but it proved effective at maintaining body heat. 7th, they instituted a strict rule about staying under the furs unless absolutely necessary. In milder conditions, people might poke their heads out to cool down or just to see what was happening. But in this extreme cold, exposing any part of your body unnecessarily meant losing precious heat. And 8th, perhaps most importantly, they increased their social cohesion intentionally. The firekeeper led evening rituals where everyone expressed gratitude for something from the day and voiced confidence in the group's ability to survive. This might seem like woo-woo nonsense, but it served a real purpose, maintaining morale and psychological resilience, which are crucial for sleep quality and overall survival. Did these strategies work? Absolutely. Within 2 nights of implementing these changes, sleep quality improved dramatically. People were warmer, more comfortable, more secure. They began sleeping deeply again. And as their sleep improved, everything else improved too. Energy levels rebounded, health stabilized, decision-making sharpened. The 2 people with respiratory infections began to recover. They made it through that brutal winter, all of them, without losing a single member. And the lessons learned became part of the group's collective knowledge, strategies that could be deployed again if needed. This story illustrates something profound about Ice Age survival. It wasn't just about physical toughness or individual capability. It was about collective intelligence, adaptability, and the willingness to innovate when faced with new challenges. It was about understanding that sleep wasn't a luxury to be sacrificed when times got tough, but rather a necessity that had to be protected even more carefully during crises. The Ice Age people who survived weren't necessarily the strongest or the bravest. They were the ones who slept well, who maintained their health and mental acuity through quality rest, who made smart decisions because their brains were properly restored each night. Now, as we continue through this particular winter night with our family group, let me tell you about the dreams they're having, because dreams in the Ice Age served purposes that we're only beginning to understand again in our modern era. The young man who's been learning to knap flint is dreaming about stones. In his dream, he's examining a piece of flint, turning it over in his hands, seeing patterns in the stone that indicate where it will fracture. His dream hands strike the stone with perfect precision, and flakes fall away, revealing the sharp edge beneath. He's practicing in his sleep, his brain consolidating the skills he's been learning during waking hours. This phenomenon, which modern researchers call sleep-dependent learning, is incredibly powerful. Studies have shown that people who practice a new skill and then sleep show significantly more improvement than people who practice the same amount but don't sleep. The brain is literally rewiring itself during sleep, strengthening the neural pathways associated with the new skill, optimizing the movements and perceptions involved. For the Ice Age people, this sleep-dependent learning is crucial. Their survival depends on mastering complex skills: napping stone, tracking animals, identifying plants, reading weather signs, navigating terrain. And the quality of their sleep determines how quickly and how well they learn these skills. The pregnant young woman is dreaming too. In her dream, she's holding a baby, though she's not sure if it's her own baby or a memory of holding her younger siblings when she was a child. The baby is nursing, and she feels a powerful sense of connection and peace. Her brain is preparing her for motherhood, processing her observations of other mothers, creating mental models of caregiving behaviors. One of the grandfathers is dreaming about a hunt from his youth, a bison hunt that went wrong when a bull charged the hunting party. In his dream, he's reliving the moment when he leapt aside, feeling the rush of air as the massive animal thundered past. But in the dream, unlike in reality, he doesn't make it. The bison hits him and he feels himself falling, and then he wakes with a start. He lies there in the darkness, his heart pounding, taking a moment to orient himself. Just a dream. Just his brain processing old memories, old fears. He takes a deep breath, feels the warmth of his mate sleeping beside him, hears the quiet breathing of his family around him. He's safe. He survived that hunt 40 years ago, and he's survived countless others since. The fear fades and he drifts back to sleep. This kind of dream, where the brain processes dangerous or threatening experiences, serves an important evolutionary function. It's a form of threat simulation, allowing you to practice responses to danger in the safe environment of sleep. People who dream about threats and challenges show better real-world performance when facing similar situations. For Ice Age people living in a genuinely dangerous world, this dream function is invaluable. You can practice hunting strategies, escape routes, defense tactics, all in your dreams without any real risk. And those practice sessions translate into better performance when facing real threats. But not all dreams are about learning or threat simulation. Some are simply the brain's way of processing emotions and experiences, finding patterns, making connections, solving problems. The firekeeper dreams about spring. In her dream, the snow is melting, revealing green grass beneath. The trees are budding. The air is warm. She feels the sun on her face and knows, with dream certainty, that they've survived another winter, that the worst is behind them. This dream is both memory, drawn from countless previous springs, and hope, a projection into the future. It's her brain's way of maintaining optimism during the long, dark winter, reminding her that this isn't permanent, that warmth and abundance will return. These dreams, all of them, are made possible by the quality of sleep these people achieve. You need adequate amounts of REM sleep to dream vividly and to reap the benefits of those dreams. And you need deep, uninterrupted sleep to cycle through enough sleep stages to experience both REM dreaming and the memory consolidation that occurs in deep sleep. The Ice Age people's lifestyle supports this. Their long nights, their dark sleeping environment, their physical exhaustion, their social security, their aligned circadian rhythms, all of it contributes to achieving the full architecture of sleep, including plenty of time in each important sleep stage. Modern people, with our shortened sleep times, our disrupted sleep patterns, our light pollution and screen time, often don't get enough REM sleep. We dream less, and when we do dream, the dreams are often anxious or fragmented. We miss out on the learning consolidation, the emotional processing, the creativity enhancement that comes from healthy dreaming. It's yet another way that our modern sleep crisis robs us of something valuable that our ancestors enjoyed naturally. As the night continues and the dreams unfold in various sleeping minds throughout the cave, something else is happening, something invisible but crucial: the synchronization of sleep cycles within the group. Research has shown that people who sleep in close proximity, especially family members and close social groups, often show synchronized sleep patterns. Their brain waves synchronize. They move through sleep cycles at similar times. They're more likely to wake or shift into lighter sleep at the same moments. This synchronization probably serves a protective function. If everyone is in deep sleep at the same time, the group is more vulnerable to threats. But if sleep cycles are somewhat staggered or synchronized, there's always someone in lighter sleep who's more likely to notice a disturbance. In our Ice Age cave, you can observe this synchronization if you were somehow able to monitor everyone's brain activity throughout the night. The family members' sleep cycles align, not perfectly but significantly. When one person shifts into lighter sleep, others nearby tend to do the same within minutes. This creates a kind of collective awareness, even during sleep. The group as a whole maintains a baseline level of vigilance without any individual having to sacrifice their sleep quality. It's another example of how social sleeping provides benefits that solitary sleeping can't match. Around 4:30 in the morning, several people shift into lighter sleep almost simultaneously. No external disturbance triggered this. It's just the natural rhythm of sleep cycles, synchronized across the group. The firekeeper in her lighter sleep automatically checks the fire without fully waking. The young man on watch becomes more alert for a few minutes. The nursing mother shifts position and checks on her baby. And then, after a few minutes, everyone settles back into deeper sleep as the cycle continues. The whole thing happens so smoothly, so naturally, that if you asked anyone about it in the morning, they probably wouldn't remember it at all. It's just the body doing what it's designed to do, maintaining awareness of safety and security even during sleep. This kind of multi-level awareness, where different parts of the brain and nervous system maintain different degrees of alertness during sleep, is sophisticated and elegant. It's a system refined over millions of years of evolution to keep us safe while still allowing for the deep rest we need. Modern people sleeping alone in locked houses with alarm systems have largely lost this capacity. We tend to sleep more heavily and uniformly because we've created environments where vigilance seems unnecessary. And in many ways, this is good. Being able to fully relax and surrender to deep sleep is valuable. But there's also something lost. That connection to our sleeping companions, that synchronized rhythm, that collective awareness. Many modern people report feeling more rested and secure when they share a sleeping space with a trusted partner, and this synchronization of sleep cycles is probably part of the reason why. As dawn approaches and the sky begins its slow lightening, the cave's inhabitants begin their natural awakening process. Not all at once, but gradually, over the course of 30 or 40 minutes. The firekeeper wakes first, as always. She lies still for a few moments, listening, assessing. Everything sounds normal. The fire needs attention, but it's not out. No one seems to be in distress. The young man on final watch is alert at his post. All is well. She rises smoothly, her body stiff from sleep and age but still functional, still capable. She tends the fire, adding wood, stirring the coals, encouraging flames. The light and warmth spread through the cave, and this increased light and warmth triggers the awakening of others. The children wake next, their natural circadian rhythms making them early risers despite their late bedtimes. They emerge from under the furs reluctantly, drawn by the fire's warmth, their minds already turning to thoughts of breakfast. The adults wake according to their individual rhythms. Some are naturally early risers, springing up ready to engage with the day. Others wake more slowly, taking their time, emerging gradually from sleep's embrace. But everyone, without exception, wakes naturally. There are no alarm clocks, no jarring interruptions, no forced awakening before the body is ready. Each person sleeps until their sleep need is met, then wakes when their circadian rhythm signals that it's time. This natural awakening is another factor in the high quality of their sleep. When you're jolted awake by an alarm in the middle of a sleep cycle, you experience what researchers call sleep inertia. Grogginess, impaired cognitive function, bad mood. The effects can last for hours. But when you wake naturally at the end of a sleep cycle, you feel more alert, more refreshed, more ready for the day. Your brain has completed its sleep architecture. Your body has finished its restoration. You're waking because you're done sleeping, not because an external force is demanding you stop sleeping. The Ice Age people benefit from this natural awakening every single day. They never experience the sleep inertia that plagues modern people. They wake feeling genuinely rested, ready to face whatever the day brings. As the family gathers around the fire for breakfast and the planning of the day's activities, there's a palpable sense of energy and well-being. Everyone slept well, everyone is restored, and this sets the tone for a productive, positive day. This is the power of quality sleep, repeated consistently, night after night. It's not just about feeling good in the moment. It's about maintaining optimal physical health, mental acuity, emotional stability, and social cohesion. It's about being able to perform at your best, to learn and adapt, to face challenges with resilience and creativity. The Ice Age people understand this, not intellectually or scientifically, but through lived experience. They know that sleep is foundational. They know that protecting and prioritizing sleep isn't self-indulgent, it's survival critical. And they've built their entire lifestyle around supporting sleep. Every choice, from cave selection to fire management, to social organization to activity patterns to meal timing, is made with an awareness of how it will affect sleep. Not consciously, necessarily, but through cultural knowledge accumulated over thousands of years. Now, before we continue exploring the secrets of Ice Age sleep and survival, I want to share something with you. If this deep dive into history is helping you relax, if you're learning things that might improve your own sleep, do yourself a favor. Hit that like button to help others find this content. Drop a comment sharing your biggest insight or your favorite part of the story so far. And subscribe to Dreamless Timelines so you never miss these journeys into the fascinating history of sleep, survival, and the human experience. Let me now tell you about a particular day in late winter, when the family faces a challenge that tests their sleep practices and reveals even more about how they maintain such excellent rest despite their harsh circumstances. The day starts normally enough. The morning is clear and cold, perfect weather for checking the trap lines. A group of three young men and one of the more experienced hunters, heads out shortly after dawn, expecting to return by mid-afternoon. But they don't return. As evening approaches and darkness begins to fall, there's still no sign of them. The family grows concerned. Something has gone wrong. The firekeeper calls the remaining adults together to discuss. Should they send a search party? But it's nearly dark now, and searching in darkness is dangerous and often futile. Should they wait until morning? But what if the missing group is in trouble, injured or trapped or threatened? They decide on a middle course. They'll wait through the night, maintaining a larger fire than usual at the cave entrance as a beacon. If the missing group is simply delayed, the fire will guide them home. And at first light, if they haven't returned, a search party will go out. This decision, though reasonable, creates a problem. Anxiety about loved ones in potential danger is one of the worst enemies of sleep. Everyone is worried. The mothers and sisters and mates of the missing men are especially distressed. How can anyone sleep when their family members might be freezing or dying somewhere out in the darkness? But here's where the Ice Age people's approach to sleep and stress shows its sophistication. They don't pretend everything is fine. They don't suppress or deny their anxiety. But they also don't let it completely disrupt their sleep, because they understand that tomorrow, whatever it brings, will require them to be rested and clear-headed. The firekeeper leads what amounts to a group emotional processing session. People share their worries openly. They talk about their fears. They also talk about reasons for hope. The missing men are skilled and experienced. They have weapons and fire-making tools. They know how to survive a night in the cold if necessary. Then, and this is crucial, they make a collective agreement. They will rest as well as they can tonight, trusting that the missing men are doing everything possible to survive and return. Staying awake worrying won't help the missing men, but being rested and ready to search effectively tomorrow might save their lives. This reframing, this collective agreement about how to approach the night, makes a huge difference. It gives people permission to sleep despite their worry. It creates a shared understanding that resting isn't abandoning the missing men, it's preparing to help them. As they settle for sleep, the atmosphere is different than usual. There's less conversation, less storytelling. People are subdued, preoccupied, but they do sleep, most of them, more than you might expect. Part of what allows this is trust in the community. The families of the missing men aren't facing this alone. Everyone shares the burden. 2 adults volunteer to maintain watch through the entire night, keeping the beacon fire burning bright, listening for any sign of the missing men's return. This allows others to sleep, knowing that someone else is maintaining vigilance. The sleep isn't as deep or as restful as usual. More people wake during the night, checking the fire, listening, thinking. But it's still sleep, still restorative, still valuable. The body and brain still get significant recovery even from this lighter, more interrupted sleep. Around 3 a.m, one of the sentries hears something. Voices calling from the darkness. She alerts the camp, and within minutes everyone is awake. They build up the fire, sending flames and light higher, and call back to the voices. And there they are, the 4 missing men, stumbling into the firelight, exhausted and cold but alive and intact. What happened? They tracked a wounded deer further than they realized, became disoriented in terrain they didn't know well, and by the time they sorted out their location, it was too dark to safely navigate back. They'd built a small fire, huddled through the night, and headed home at first light, which came earlier than they expected because of their anxiety to return. The reunion is joyful. There's laughter and tears and embraces. The missing men are fed and warmed and fussed over. And then, with everyone back together and safe, the entire family returns to sleep. The crisis has passed. The tension releases. And the sleep that follows in the remaining hours before dawn is deep and sweet, made more precious by the relief of danger averted. This incident, and others like it that every family experiences periodically, teaches important lessons about sleep and stress. You can't eliminate all sources of anxiety or danger from life, especially not in the Ice Age, but you can develop practices and attitudes that allow you to maintain sleep even during stressful times. You can create social structures that distribute the burden of vigilance. You can use collective rituals to process emotions and create shared meanings. All of these strategies help protect sleep, that most precious and necessary resource for survival. Now let's talk about something that might seem tangential, but is actually deeply connected to sleep quality: the Ice Age people's relationship with darkness. In our modern world, we've essentially eliminated darkness from our lives. We have streetlights and house lights and vehicle lights illuminating the night. We have screens that shine blue light directly into our eyes at all hours. We can make any environment as bright as day with the flip of a switch. This seems like an unambiguous good, a triumph of technology over the inconvenience and danger of darkness, but it comes with a significant cost to our sleep and health. Exposure to light, especially blue light from screens and LED bulbs, suppresses the production of melatonin, the hormone that signals to your body that it's time for sleep. Even relatively dim light, if it's the wrong wavelength, can disrupt circadian rhythms. And the result is that many modern people's bodies never get the clear signal that night has fallen and sleep should begin. The Ice Age people, by contrast, live in true darkness once the sun sets. The only light sources they have are the fire and the moon and stars. And while firelight is bright enough to see by and to provide warmth, it's fundamentally different from modern artificial light. Fire produces light in the red and orange wavelengths, the warm colors at the opposite end of the spectrum from blue light. These wavelengths don't suppress melatonin production the way blue light does. In fact, sitting by a fire in the evening, while still providing enough light for social interaction and basic tasks, actually supports the natural sleep-wake cycle rather than disrupting it. And when the fire is banked for the night, when the flames die down to glowing coals, the cave becomes truly dark. Not the pseudo-darkness of a modern bedroom with streetlight filtering through curtains and electronic device lights glowing, but genuine, complete darkness. This darkness is a powerful sleep signal. In true darkness, melatonin production ramps up to its maximum. Your circadian rhythm gets an unambiguous message. It's night time to sleep. And your sleep, when it comes, tends to be deeper and more continuous than sleep in a light-polluted environment. The Ice Age people's relationship with darkness goes beyond just accepting it as an unavoidable feature of nighttime. They've actually integrated darkness into their understanding of the world and their psychological relationship with sleep. Darkness isn't frightening to them the way it often is to modern people, especially modern children. Yes, they're aware of the dangers that can emerge from darkness, predators mostly, but they've developed strategies for managing that danger, like the watch system and the careful sighting of their cave. And once those strategies are in place, darkness becomes associated with safety, with family, with rest, with the sacred time of sleep. Children growing up in this environment learn to associate darkness with comfort from their earliest days. They're never exposed to the idea that darkness is inherently dangerous or that you need artificial light to feel safe. Instead, they learn that darkness is natural, that it signals rest time, that it's when you're held close by your family and protected by the group. This positive association with darkness carries forward into adulthood, making the transition to sleep easier and more natural. When darkness falls, the body and mind know what to do. There's no resistance, no fighting against the natural signal to sleep. You work with it, surrender to it, allow it to carry you into rest. Modern children, by contrast, often develop a fear of darkness, partly because we teach them, explicitly or implicitly, that darkness is something to be feared and eliminated. We leave nightlights on. We tell them stories about monsters in the dark. We create an association between darkness and danger, and then we wonder why they resist bedtime and have trouble sleeping. If we could learn from the Ice Age people's relationship with darkness, if we could create sleeping environments that are truly dark and teach children that darkness is safe and restful, we might solve a lot of modern sleep problems. Speaking of modern problems, let me address something that's probably occurred to you as you've been listening to this exploration of Ice Age sleep. Isn't this all just romanticizing the past? Isn't it survivorship bias, focusing on the people who succeeded while ignoring all the ones who died? These are fair questions, and they deserve honest answers. Yes, there absolutely is survivorship bias in the story I'm telling you. The family group I've been describing in such detail represents the successful ones, the people who figured out how to thrive in brutal conditions. For every family like this that survived a winter, there were probably others who didn't make it. And yes, life in the Ice Age was genuinely harsh. The mortality rate, especially for infants and children, was much higher than in modern developed nations. People died from injuries and illnesses that would be easily treatable today. Life expectancy was shorter. But here's the thing, acknowledging these harsh realities doesn't invalidate the lessons we can learn from the people who did survive and thrive. In fact, it makes those lessons more valuable, not less. The Ice Age people who survived weren't just lucky. They survived because they figured out how to live in alignment with their biology, how to support their health and well-being even in difficult circumstances, how to maintain the sleep and stress management and social cohesion that allowed them to function at their best. And while we can't and shouldn't try to recreate Ice Age living conditions, we absolutely can learn from their wisdom about sleep, about community, about living in harmony with natural rhythms. We have the advantage of modern medicine, technology, and comfort. We don't have to choose between Ice Age sleep wisdom and modern conveniences. We can have both. We can create sleeping environments that are dark and cool and quiet while still being safe and comfortable. We can incorporate physical activity and natural light exposure into our days while still enjoying modern transportation and indoor work. We can prioritize social connection and community while still benefiting from modern communication technology. The point isn't to go backwards, it's to go forwards, but with wisdom rather than abandoning the biological realities that shaped us over millions of years of evolution. Now, as we move deeper into this winter night and this exploration of Ice Age sleep, let me tell you about one more aspect of their lifestyle that profoundly impacts sleep quality, their relationship with fear, and how they manage the genuine dangers of their world. Living in the Ice Age means living with real, immediate threats. Cave bears and dire wolves and short-faced bears, all predators powerful enough to kill a human. Ice Age winters cold enough to kill you if you make a mistake, injuries that can become infected and fatal, food scarcity that can lead to starvation, other human groups that might be hostile. These dangers are real, not imaginary or hypothetical. People experience them directly. Nearly everyone has lost family members or friends to these various threats. The fear is justified. But here's what's fascinating. Despite living with genuine danger, the Ice Age people don't seem to experience the kind of chronic anxiety that plagues so many modern people who live in objectively much safer circumstances. How is this possible? Part of the answer lies in the nature of the threats they face. Ice Age dangers are real but immediate and concrete. You see a cave bear, you react, fight or flee or freeze. The danger is present, you respond, and then it's over. There's no chronic low-level worry about abstract or distant threats. Modern people, by contrast, worry about things like job security, retirement savings, climate change, political developments, health issues that might develop years in the future. These worries are abstract, distant, and largely outside our direct control. And this kind of chronic, unresolvable worry is much worse for mental health and sleep than acute, immediate danger. The Ice Age people also have a different relationship with control and acceptance. They know there are things they can control: their preparation, their skills, their decisions, their care for each other, and they focus their energy on those controllable factors. But they also accept that some things are outside their control. The weather will do what it does. Predators exist and always will. Accidents happen. People die. You can minimize risks, but you can't eliminate them. This acceptance, this lack of illusion about control, is actually psychologically protective. It allows you to do what you can and then let go of what you can't change. It prevents the rumination and anxiety that comes from believing you should be able to control things that are actually beyond your control. And this acceptance doesn't mean passivity or fatalism. The Ice Age people are incredibly proactive about managing risks, but they don't waste psychological energy worrying about things they've already prepared for or things they can't change. This balanced approach to fear and danger, combining preparation with acceptance, creates a mental state that's much more conducive to restful sleep than the chronic anxiety that characterizes so much of modern life. When an Ice Age person lies down to sleep, they've done everything they reasonably can to ensure safety. The watch is set, the fire is tended, the cave is secure, and so they can let go, trusting that they've done their part and that whatever happens, they'll deal with it when it comes. Modern people, by contrast, often lie awake running through endless scenarios, worrying about things that might happen, feeling like there must be something more they should be doing to prevent every possible negative outcome. This rumination is exhausting and counterproductive, and it destroys sleep quality. If we could adopt the Ice Age approach, prepare thoroughly, then release worry about things beyond your control, many of us would sleep much better. Now, let me take you through another complete sleep cycle in detail, because I want you to understand just how different Ice Age sleep architecture is from what most modern people experience. It's now about 1 a.m. Most of the family has been asleep for about 4 hours. Let's focus on one person, a 30-year-old hunter I'll call Grey Wolf, because that's roughly what his name translates to in his language. Grey Wolf fell asleep around 9 p.m., quickly dropping into deep, slow-wave sleep. His brain waves slowed to the delta rhythm, large, slow oscillations that characterize the deepest sleep stage. His body temperature dropped. His heart rate slowed to its lowest point. His muscles were completely relaxed, occasionally twitching slightly as motor memories from the day's activities were consolidated. He spent about 90 minutes in this deep sleep, the most restorative stage. During this time, his body was doing crucial repair work. Growth hormone was released, stimulating muscle growth and repair. His immune system was producing infection-fighting antibodies and cytokines. Metabolic waste was being cleared from his brain by the glymphatic system. Glucose stores in his muscles were being replenished. Then around 10:30, he transitioned into lighter sleep, his brain waves speeding up slightly. He moved through stage 2 sleep, characterized by sleep spindles and K-complexes, brain wave patterns associated with memory consolidation. He might have shifted position during this stage, adjusting his body without waking. Around 11 p.m., about 90 minutes after falling asleep, Grey Wolf entered his first REM period of the night. His eyes began moving rapidly beneath closed lids. His brain activity increased dramatically, looking almost like waking brain activity on an EEG. His breathing became irregular. His heart rate increased. And he dreamed. In his dream, he was tracking a deer through the forest. He could see the tracks in the snow, could read the story they told about the animal's size and speed and direction. He followed the tracks up a hill, moving confidently through terrain that seemed familiar yet strange in the way of dreams. This first REM period was relatively short, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Then he cycled back into lighter sleep, then deeper sleep again. This pattern continued throughout the night, each complete cycle lasting about 90 minutes, with REM periods getting progressively longer and deep sleep periods getting shorter as the night progressed. By 1 a.m., Grey Wolf is in his 3rd or 4th sleep cycle. He's just coming out of another REM period, during which he dreamed about his mate and the upcoming spring when the harsh winter would finally end. As he transitions out of REM into lighter sleep, he shifts position, rolling from his side onto his back. This position change is significant. Modern sleep researchers have found that position changes during the night serve important purposes. They prevent pressure sores and maintain circulation. They allow different muscle groups to relax. They're a natural part of healthy sleep. Grey Wolf settles into his new position, still deeply asleep but in a lighter stage now. His breathing is steady and quiet. His face is relaxed, showing none of the tension he carries during waking hours when he's alert to danger and responsibility. He looks younger in sleep, more vulnerable, more at peace. Around him, other family members are at various points in their own sleep cycles. Some are in deep sleep, their breathing slow and heavy. Others are in REM, their eyes moving, their faces sometimes showing emotion as they dream. A few are in lighter sleep stages, shifting position, perhaps briefly surfacing toward consciousness before sinking back down. The firekeeper, true to her role, briefly wakes around 1:15. She doesn't sit up or fully emerge from her furs. She simply opens her eyes, assesses the fire by its glow and the warmth in the air, determines that it's fine for now, and closes her eyes again. The whole process takes maybe 15 seconds, and she's back asleep almost immediately. This ability to briefly check on important matters without fully waking is something the Ice Age people have developed through practice. It allows them to maintain vigilance without sacrificing sleep quality. Modern people can develop this ability too, but it requires practice and a certain mental approach to sleep and responsibility. Grey Wolf continues through his sleep cycles. Around 2:30 a.m., he enters another deep sleep period, though not as deep as his first cycle of the night. This is normal. The longest and deepest slow-wave sleep periods occur in the first half of the night, while the longest REM periods occur in the second half. Around 3 a.m., he's in another REM period, and this one is longer and more vivid than his earlier dreams. He dreams that he's teaching his young son how to track animals, showing him how to read signs in the snow and dirt, how to distinguish between fresh tracks and old ones, how to predict where an animal might be heading. This dream has multiple layers of significance. On one level, it's consolidating his own hunting knowledge, reinforcing the neural pathways associated with tracking skills. On another level, it's processing his relationship with his son and his role as a father and teacher. On yet another level, it might be preparing him psychologically for the actual teaching sessions he'll conduct with his son in the coming months. Dreams serve all these purposes and more. They're not just random neural noise. They're the brain's way of processing information, solving problems, preparing for the future, maintaining emotional balance. As Grey Wolf's dream unfolds and his REM period continues, his body is essentially paralyzed to prevent him from acting out his dreams. Only his eyes and his diaphragm can move. This REM paralysis is a protective mechanism, though occasionally it fails, leading to people who move or talk in their sleep. Around 4 a.m., Grey Wolf transitions out of REM and into lighter sleep again. He shifts position once more, this time rolling onto his other side, pulling the furs more tightly around himself as the cave has cooled slightly during the night. His sleep continues through another complete cycle, but by 5 a.m., the nature of his sleep is changing. He's spending very little time in deep sleep now, cycling mostly between light sleep and REM. His body is beginning to prepare for waking, his core temperature starting to rise, his cortisol levels beginning to climb. Around 5:30, during a light sleep stage, a small sound from across the cave, one of the children coughing, brings him briefly to the surface of consciousness. He registers the sound, determines it's nothing concerning, and drifts back down without ever fully waking. Finally, around 6 a.m., as the first hints of dawn begin to lighten the sky outside the cave, and the firekeeper rises to tend the fire, Grey Wolf naturally wakes. He's been asleep for about 9 hours, cycling through multiple complete sleep cycles, experiencing plenty of both deep restorative sleep and REM dreaming sleep. He wakes feeling genuinely refreshed, alert, ready for the day. There's no grogginess, no sleep inertia, no feeling of needing more sleep. His body is done sleeping. His sleep need has been met, and now he's ready to engage with whatever the day brings. This is what healthy sleep looks like. This is the sleep architecture that humans evolved to experience, refined over millions of years to perfectly balance restoration with readiness, depth with flexibility, individual needs with group coordination. Modern people rarely experience this kind of complete, satisfying sleep. We cut our sleep short with alarm clocks. We disrupt it with artificial light and screen time. We fragment it with stress and worry. We compromise it with poor sleeping environments and unhealthy lifestyle choices. But we don't have to. We can reclaim this kind of sleep, or something close to it, if we're willing to make it a priority and to learn from the wisdom our ancestors developed. Before we continue with more secrets of Ice Age sleep, let me ask you something. Are you feeling more relaxed as you listen to this story? Is your breathing deeper, your mind quieter? Are you learning things that make you think differently about sleep and survival and human capability? If so, show some love to the Dreamless Timelines channel. Hit that like button, leave a comment sharing what you're taking away from this journey, and subscribe so you can continue exploring the fascinating history of sleep and human experience with us. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you: the role of physical touch and social sleeping in creating feelings of safety and security that promote quality sleep. In modern Western culture, especially in the United States, we have strong norms around personal space and sleeping arrangements. Adults are expected to sleep alone or only with romantic partners. Children are encouraged to sleep in their own beds, often in their own rooms from a young age. Physical touch between adults, except in romantic or familial contexts, is often seen as inappropriate or uncomfortable. But these norms are actually quite recent and quite culturally specific. For most of human history, and in many cultures around the world today, social sleeping, multiple people sleeping in close proximity, often touching, has been the norm. And research suggests that social sleeping provides significant benefits for sleep quality and psychological well-being, especially for children, but also for adults. In our Ice Age cave, social sleeping is universal and unremarkable. The entire family sleeps in the same space, within sight and sound and often touch of each other. Children sleep nestled between or among adults. Siblings sleep huddled together. Mates sleep intertwined. Even adults who aren't partners might sleep back to back or shoulder to shoulder for warmth and security. This constant physical proximity and touch serves multiple purposes. First and most obviously, it conserves warmth. Body heat is a valuable resource in Ice Age winters, and sharing it makes survival much easier. But the benefits go way beyond just warmth. Physical touch and proximity activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode that's essential for quality sleep. They trigger the release of oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone, which reduces stress and promotes feelings of safety and contentment. Children especially benefit from sleeping in close contact with caregivers. It regulates their nervous systems, helps them feel secure, reduces nighttime fears and anxieties. But adults benefit too. Studies have shown that people who sleep in close proximity to trusted others experience lower cortisol levels, better heart rate variability, and deeper sleep. There's also a phenomenon called social buffering, where the presence of trusted others literally reduces your physiological stress response. When you're facing something scary or challenging, having someone you trust nearby makes you less stressed, more capable of coping. And this effect extends into sleep. Having trusted others nearby while you sleep reduces nighttime anxiety and promotes deeper, more restful sleep. Our Ice Age family benefits from all these effects. The children sleep peacefully because they're surrounded by protective adults. The adults sleep more deeply because they're not alone with their vigilance, but can share the responsibility of monitoring for threats. Everyone benefits from the warmth, the oxytocin release, the social buffering effect. Modern Western sleeping arrangements, by contrast, often work against these beneficial effects. Children are isolated in their own rooms, expected to manage nighttime fears alone, separated from the parents who could provide comfort and security. Adults often sleep alone or separated from their partners by work schedules or sleep problems like snoring. The result is often increased sleep anxiety, especially for children, and reduced sleep quality for everyone. We've created sleeping arrangements that might maximize individual space and privacy, but that compromise the social factors that promote deep, restful sleep. I'm not suggesting that everyone should go back to one-room living, or that adults should abandon their bedrooms. But I am suggesting that we might benefit from questioning our assumptions about sleeping arrangements, especially for children, and considering whether some increased social sleeping might improve sleep quality for everyone. Some modern parents have discovered this instinctively, allowing children to sleep in their room when the children are scared or sick, or choosing to co-sleep with infants despite cultural pressure against it. And many of these families report that everyone sleeps better with these arrangements, not worse. The Ice Age people didn't have to question or debate these arrangements. They simply did what came naturally, what their biology and their circumstances dictated, and the result was sleeping arrangements that supported quality sleep for everyone. Now, as morning fully arrives, and the family begins another day of survival activities, let me tell you about the long-term health effects of their excellent sleep, because this is where the real power of quality sleep becomes evident. Over years and decades of consistently good sleep, the Ice Age people develop and maintain remarkable health and resilience. Their cardiovascular systems remain strong, their immune systems function optimally, their cognitive abilities stay sharp well into old age, at least for those who survive long enough to experience old age. Their mental health remains stable even in the face of significant stressors. Compare this to modern people with chronic sleep deprivation, which describes a huge percentage of the population in developed nations. Chronic poor sleep is associated with increased risk of virtually every major disease: heart disease, diabetes, obesity, cancer, Alzheimer's, depression, anxiety. Why? Because sleep is when your body does its maintenance and repair work. Skimp on sleep and you skimp on maintenance. Over time, the damage accumulates, systems break down, diseases develop. The Ice Age people don't have this problem. They're consistent. Quality sleep means their bodies are getting the maintenance they need, night after night, year after year. And while they certainly face other health challenges, injuries, infections, nutritional deficiencies, they're not dealing with the sleep-related chronic diseases that plague modern societies. The Fire Keeper at 62 is a perfect example. By Ice Age standards, she's ancient. Most people don't live this long, but those who do, like her, often maintain remarkable vitality and cognitive function. She's still sharp, still capable, still contributing meaningfully to her family's survival. Part of this is genetics, sure. Part of it is luck in avoiding serious injuries and infections. But a huge part of it is the cumulative effect of decades of quality sleep. Her brain has been thoroughly cleaned every night by the lymphatic system, clearing out the metabolic waste that contributes to dementia. Her cardiovascular system has been maintained through nightly periods of deep rest and repair. Her immune system has been kept strong through adequate sleep. She's a walking testament to the power of good sleep for long-term health and longevity. And it's not just about physical health. Her psychological resilience, her wisdom, her emotional stability, all of these are supported by her consistent sleep. People who sleep well maintain better emotional regulation, better social skills, better judgment as they age. Sleep-deprived people, by contrast, often become more irritable, more impulsive, less capable of complex thought as they get older. The Ice Age people who survive to old age, who become the elders and wisdom keepers like the Fire Keeper, are the ones who slept well throughout their lives. Good sleep isn't just about surviving the next day. It's about thriving over decades, about maintaining your health and capabilities over a lifetime. Now, let's explore another winter day with this family, because I want to show you how their sleep practices integrate with their broader survival strategies and social structures. Today is a craft day. The weather is particularly harsh, with blowing snow and brutal wind making it dangerous to venture far from the cave. So the family stays in, working on various projects that don't require leaving the shelter. The men are working on weapons and tools. They're knapping flint, creating sharp blades and points. They're straightening wooden spear shafts by heating them over the fire and applying careful pressure. They're repairing or replacing worn bindings on existing tools. The women are working on clothing and containers. They're sewing furs into garments, using bone needles and sinew thread. They're weaving baskets from plant fibers they collected and prepared during warmer months. They're repairing damage to existing clothing and containers. The children are watching, learning, sometimes attempting their own simple projects under supervision. This is their education, watching skilled adults work and gradually developing their own skills through observation and practice. And throughout the day as they work, they're telling stories, singing songs, engaging in conversation. This social interaction serves multiple purposes. It makes the work less tedious. It reinforces social bonds. It transmits cultural knowledge and values. And crucially, it creates the kind of relaxed, connected daytime experience that supports quality sleep at night. People who spend their days in positive social interaction, who feel valued and connected to their community, who engage in meaningful work, tend to sleep better than people who are socially isolated or who feel their work is meaningless. The Ice Age people's lifestyle creates abundant opportunities for this kind of positive daytime experience. They're always together, always interacting, always engaged in work that clearly matters for survival. And this creates a psychological foundation that supports good sleep. As evening approaches, the family shares another meal, tells more stories, and eventually settles for sleep, repeating the rhythms and rituals we've already explored. And once again, they sleep deeply and well, recharging for tomorrow. This daily rhythm, meaningful work, social connection, natural light and temperature exposure, physical activity, evening wind down, darkness and sleep, natural awakening, repeats day after day, week after week, month after month. It's not always exactly the same. Some days are hunting days, some are gathering days, some are travel days, some are rest days, but the fundamental pattern remains consistent. And this consistency is itself a factor in good sleep. Your circadian rhythm thrives on regularity. When you wake at roughly the same time each day, when you're exposed to bright light in the morning, when you have consistent evening routines, your body's internal clock stays well calibrated. You get sleepy at the right time. You wake feeling refreshed at the right time. Everything works as it should. Modern people, with our irregular schedules, our shift work, our jet lag, Our tendency to stay up late on weekends and then struggle to wake early on Monday constantly disrupt our circadian rhythms. We give our bodies mixed signals about when it's day and when it's night, and the result is often chronic sleep problems. The Ice Age people don't have this issue. Their schedules are dictated by the sun and the seasons, not by alarm clocks and work schedules. And as a result, their circadian rhythms stay well calibrated, supporting consistent, quality sleep. Let me now tell you about something that happens later in the winter, an event that illustrates both the fragility and the resilience of Ice Age life, and the crucial role that sleep plays in survival. A sickness sweeps through the region. It starts in another family group and spreads from there, probably carried by someone who visited multiple camps in quick succession. It's a respiratory infection, what we might call influenza, characterized by fever, coughing, fatigue, and body aches. The disease reaches our family's cave, and within days, several people are sick. The firekeeper's mate is hit hard. 2 of the children develop high fevers. One of the young hunters becomes so weak he can barely stand. This is a crisis. In the Ice Age, diseases that would be inconvenient in the modern world can easily be fatal. Without antibiotics, without modern medicine, your only defense is your immune system. And your immune system's effectiveness depends heavily on several factors, including nutrition, stress levels, and crucially, sleep. The firekeeper springs into action, applying all her accumulated wisdom about caring for the sick. The sick individuals are positioned close to the fire but not too close, where they can stay warm without becoming overheated. They're given frequent small drinks of water with dissolved snow, keeping them hydrated. They're fed light, easily digestible foods when they can eat. But most importantly, they're encouraged to sleep, to rest as much as possible, because the firekeeper knows from decades of experience that people who rest well during illness are much more likely to recover than those who don't. The healthy members of the family take over all the work, letting the sick ones focus entirely on resting and recovering. There's no pressure to contribute, no guilt about being a burden. The social contract is clear. When you're sick, you rest. When you're well, you work. It all balances out over time. And the sick individuals do sleep prodigiously. 16, 18, even 20 hours a day in the first few days of illness. This isn't laziness or weakness. It's their body's wisdom, directing all available energy toward fighting the infection. During sleep, immune function ramps up dramatically. The production of cytokines and antibodies increases. Inflammatory responses are regulated. The body can focus its resources on fighting the invaders rather than on movement or digestion or cognitive function. The people who sleep well during their illness begin to recover after 4 or 5 days. Their fevers break, their coughing eases, their strength begins to return. Within a week or 10 days, they're mostly back to normal, perhaps a bit tired still, but fundamentally recovered. The one person who doesn't recover as well is a young woman who, for whatever reason, perhaps anxiety about being a burden, perhaps restlessness from the fever, doesn't sleep as well during her illness. She tosses and turns, wakes frequently, never drops into the deep sleep her body needs. Her recovery takes much longer, stretching into weeks. She develops a secondary infection, a cough that won't go away. She loses weight and strength. For a time, it's uncertain whether she'll survive. Eventually, she does recover, but it takes much longer than it should have, and she comes much closer to death than necessary. And the lesson is clear to everyone. During illness, sleep isn't optional. It's life-saving medicine. This experience reinforces the family's existing respect for sleep, but it also adds a new dimension to their understanding. They already knew that regular good sleep keeps you healthy. Now they have vivid proof that sleep during illness can mean the difference between life and death. Modern medical research confirms this Ice Age wisdom. Sleep deprivation significantly impairs immune function. People who don't sleep well when they're sick take longer to recover and are more likely to develop complications. In controlled studies, people deprived of sleep after being exposed to a virus are much more likely to become sick than people who sleep normally. Sleep is medicine, literally. And the Ice Age people, through observation and experience, figured this out thousands of years before we had the scientific tools to prove it. As the family group recovers from this illness and life returns to its normal rhythms, winter begins to loosen its grip. The days grow imperceptibly longer. The worst of the cold passes. There are hints, subtle but unmistakable to experienced observers, that spring is approaching. The family's mood lifts. There's more laughter, more energy, more optimism. They've survived another winter, one of the hardest tests that Ice Age life presents. And a huge part of their success can be attributed to the sleep practices and lifestyle factors that kept them healthy, clear-headed, and resilient throughout the long, dark months. Now, as we approach the conclusion of this journey through Ice Age winter sleep, Let me synthesize the key lessons we can extract from their experience and apply to our modern lives. First, the importance of darkness. Create a truly dark sleeping environment free from artificial light. Use blackout curtains if necessary. Cover or remove electronic devices with lights. Dim your lights in the evening, especially avoiding blue light from screens. Your circadian rhythm will thank you with better sleep. Second, the power of temperature. Let your sleeping environment cool down at night. The ideal temperature for sleep is cooler than most people maintain, somewhere between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature drop signals to your body that it's time for sleep and promotes deeper, more continuous rest. Third, the value of physical activity. Engage in regular physical activity, ideally outdoors in natural light. This doesn't mean you need to hunt mammoths or walk 15 miles a day, but some form of sustained physical activity will promote better sleep. Just avoid intense exercise too close to bedtime. Fourth, the significance of meal timing. Eat your largest meal earlier in the day and keep evening meals lighter. Give your body several hours between dinner and bedtime to process food. This aligns with your circadian rhythm and promotes better sleep quality. Fifth, the necessity of wind-down routines. Create evening rituals that help you transition from waking activity to sleep. This might include storytelling, reading, quiet conversation, gentle stretching, meditation, or other relaxing activities. Avoid stimulating content and activities in the hour or two before bed. Sixth, the benefits of social connection. Prioritize positive social interactions during the day. Maintain strong relationships with family and friends. Consider sleeping arrangements that balance privacy with social connection, especially for children who might benefit from parental proximity. Seventh, the healing power of acceptance. Work to accept what you cannot control rather than ruminating on it. Do what you can to manage risks and prepare for challenges, then release the worry. This psychological approach will dramatically improve your sleep quality. Eighth, the foundation of consistency. Maintain regular sleep and wake times as much as possible. Your circadian rhythm thrives on consistency and struggles with irregular schedules. Ninth, the priority of sleep itself. Treat sleep as foundational to health and well-being, not as a luxury or waste of time. Protect your sleep time fiercely. Say no to commitments that would compromise your sleep. Recognize that adequate sleep makes you more effective, more resilient, more capable in every area of life. And 10th, the wisdom of natural awakening. When possible, wake without an alarm, allowing your sleep to complete naturally. This might mean going to bed earlier, but the improvement in sleep quality and daytime functioning will be worth it. These lessons, drawn from Ice Age survival wisdom and validated by modern sleep science, can transform your sleep and, by extension, your life. You don't need to live in a cave or hunt for your food to benefit from this ancient wisdom. You just need to recognize that your biology hasn't changed much in 30,000 years, and the factors that promoted quality sleep then still promote quality sleep now. As the winter finally breaks and spring begins to arrive in our Ice Age family's world, as the snow starts to melt and the first green shoots push through the soil, as the days grow longer and warmer, the family emerges from their cave more frequently. They've survived, they've thrived, and they've done so in large part because they understood something fundamental, that sleep is not a luxury or an afterthought but a cornerstone of survival and well-being. Night after night throughout the brutal winter, they created the conditions for deep, restorative sleep. They aligned their lifestyle with their biology. They supported each other in maintaining health and resilience. And now, as spring arrives and new challenges and opportunities present themselves, they're ready. They're rested, healthy, clear-minded, and strong. This is the power of good sleep. This is why the Ice Age people who slept well were the ones who survived and passed on their genes to future generations. This is why we, their descendants, have inherited both the capacity for excellent sleep and the biological need for it. In our modern world, we face different challenges than our Ice Age ancestors. We don't worry about cave bears or food scarcity or freezing to death, but we face our own stresses, our own threats to health and well-being, and the fundamental importance of sleep remains unchanged. If you want to thrive, if you want to be healthy and resilient and capable, you need to prioritize sleep. You need to create the conditions that support quality rest. You need to learn from the wisdom of our ancestors who figured this out through countless generations of trial and error. The story of Ice Age winter sleep isn't just a historical curiosity. It's a guidebook for how to live, how to rest, how to maintain your health and well-being even in challenging circumstances. It's a reminder that the answers to many of our modern problems lie not in new technology or pharmaceutical breakthroughs, but in rediscovering and applying ancient wisdom about how humans are designed to live. As you drift off to sleep tonight, in your own comfortable bed in your modern home, remember the Ice Age family in their limestone cave. Remember how they created safety and warmth and rest in the midst of brutal conditions. Remember how they prioritized sleep as essential for survival. And ask yourself, am I giving my own sleep the priority it deserves? Am I creating the conditions that support quality rest? Am I honoring the biological needs that I inherited from those successful Ice Age survivors? Because the same factors that kept them alive and thriving 30,000 years ago can keep you healthy and resilient today. The wisdom is timeless. The biology is unchanged. All you need to do is apply it. Sleep well, dear listener, rest deeply, and wake refreshed, ready to face whatever challenges your own world presents. You carry within you the same capacity for resilience and adaptation that allowed your ancestors to survive the Ice Age. Honor that capacity by giving your body and brain the sleep they need to function at their best. The fire is burning low now in our imaginary cave. The family is settling in for another night of peaceful rest, and you, in your own time and place, can join them in that rest. Close your eyes, let go of the day's concerns, feel yourself supported, safe, ready for sleep. This is your inheritance from the Ice Age survivors. This capacity for deep, healing, restorative sleep. Claim it, use it, let it transform your health and your life. Good night, sleep well, and thank you for joining me on this journey through the fascinating history of sleep. If you enjoyed this exploration, if you learned something valuable, if you found peace and relaxation in this story, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to Dreamless Timelines for more journeys into the past that help you rest better in the present. Sweet dreams!